And you are watching another Blewett Blitz film review. He has that ability to, trust me, he definitely does. Just his ability to catch balls outside of his frame, his leaping ability, his ability to hang in the air, his yak ability, it's all there. Lowers his helmet, low man wins, bang, rocks a guy.
Hall running free, Brees Hall inside the 10, he's gonna score!
The corners all do their job. You know, if you look at the picture right here, lock.
3rd and 1. Stevens always drilled. What a great defensive play.
I don't try to Monday morning quarterback any of the reviews I do, and I'll try to be honest with a lot of the things I put up. And you are watching / listening to another edition of Blewett's Blitz. Was absent for a week just because I did not feel like talking about the Jets and the Patriots game and should they win, should they lose. I just let it happen, and then obviously the Jets wrote it out, dominated the Patriots 17-13. I believe that was Bill Belichick's lowest offensive output and in terms of yards in Foxborough in his history. So good way to send Bill Belichick out. They hire Gerard Mayo. It's not Rabel, so we can celebrate a little bit. But welcome to 2024. Welcome to another offseason where we thrive, where we talk about draft prospects, where we break down free agents, where we dispel some common narratives about players. We have a lot of things to discuss. But before that, I will also just remind people that this is on a audio, or you can also get this on audio. So if you do, or you can't listen to it on YouTube, or you can't watch it on YouTube, you don't have YouTube Red or Black or whatever the hell it is, you could go to Blewett's Blitz in the podcast app and download it there. Leave a 5-star little review. Ton of 5 stars in there. I just haven't had a review in like 2 years. And we're trying to make the push to get over 9,000. We've been sitting at 897 forever. So 30 people, we need to get them to subscribe because we're going to put out a lot of draft content. I'm kind of waiting in limbo right now, but I have Fashanu completely done. So I have all my opinions of him. I kind of want to stack him up to the rest of the class to see exactly how I feel about him, because if the rest of the class is a little bit better than I think, maybe he'll get pushed down. If the class is a little bit worse than I think, maybe he'll get pushed up a little bit. But I'm waiting to get some film on Bowers. I'm going to watch Bowers next. I'm going to watch Fuaga. I'm going to watch Dunze, and I'm going to watch Latham. I think those are probably the 5 most likely picks for the Jets right now. I would watch Neighbors, but apparently he's going to go before the Jets, so that's at least what people think. And then same thing for Alt. So if I have more time, maybe I'll do Alt and Neighbors, but for now, those are the 5 I'm going to do. Again, Fashanu is completely done. I haven't done the review yet. I haven't formulated my whole list of strengths and weaknesses, but I've watched 9 or 10 games of Fashanu, so I should have a pretty good. All right, no, I do have a pretty good feel of him. So let's say hello to some people. I know I saw Dakota in here first, by the way, a couple of days ago, and the message deleted. I saw Matthias in here as well, and I also saw somebody else prior to that who also got deleted. So let's say hello to some people in the chat. Again, sorry for this. It's not so sporadic. I missed last week, but Friday at 5. That's what we're doing now. Friday at 5. Nice and easy time. But credible commenter, we suck. Yeah, I have quite a few things written down in the last week or two of the Jets that just continue their kind of, I don't know. It's a little bit of a shit show with some of the ways they speak to the media and then the players coming out and criticizing offensive line coaches. We have Garrett Wilson saying it was the worst year of his life. I'm assuming in terms of football. We have, the end of the year conferences with Joe Douglas and Saleh, which didn't necessarily go swimming in my opinion. I have a bunch of just random sporadic notes that are formulated in no way, which probably they probably should be, but it's okay. I'm okay to admit that. So we'll go over some of that stuff after I talk to the chat, but I'm sure that you guys are naturally going to bring up some of the shit that's gone on with the Jersey Shore Jets at this point. This is what I call them because of the amount of drama and stuff that surrounds the Jets. It's pretty crazy. But we suck. Yeah, it's not been great. It's not been great. Christian, do you think Fuaga is a reach at 10? I gotta watch. I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to necessarily sound like this. Draft time and free agency time is both the best time of the year for me individual, and I hope that's going to be the season eventually. But for me individually, just being able to watch a bunch of new guys, it gets fun because watching the Jets for 18 weeks specifically, when you're watching one of the worst offenses of all time, in terms of like stats and numbers and whatever it is. I think we had like 11 passing touchdowns or 10 passing touchdowns, which is the worst since like 2010 or whatever it was. We have terrible. It's just terrible. It's not that fun to watch. It gets a little bit dry. So to be able to watch a bunch of draft prospects, to be able to watch a bunch of free agent guys, it is pretty fun. With that being said, it's also very much so the most annoying time of the year because you see a bunch of people who kind of just spurt out the same exact thing as the next guy. You get a lot of people who put out their opinions on Twitter, who have never watched these guys, who have watched these guys on YouTube for 5 minutes, or who go to the Draft Network or Draft Tech or NFL.com. They read the scouting reports and then you just regurgitate all the same shit. So it gets pretty annoying to see narratives about players that are just inherently false. One that I can tell you, in my opinion, and at least watching him so far, to say Fashanu is a top 10 lock, and he's either better than Alt or he's easily the second, then I don't have a lot of hope for Alt, and I don't have a lot of hope for the class because Fashanu is a guy. I like Fashanu. Do I think he's a run up the card guy at 10? Absolutely not. I do not. I think he has some Evan Neal to him, and I'm not, trust me, you guys know if you've been watching this show for any amount of time, I hated Evan Neal. It's not to that level, but he is uber raw in the run game. And if he was a fit in any run system, it's a power system. It's not a zone system at this point, because in the power, you get some more advantageous angles and things like that. It's a little bit more defined, but he has a lot of work in the run game. And even in the pass game, a lot of people will say, he's a lockdown. He's a lock in pass pro, which, at the NFL or at the college level versus Rutgers, yeah, it might be, but there's a lot of work he needs to do in terms of changing up his pass sets. Typically punches with the inside and then catches with the outside. Guys in the NFL, and he kind of hops into the outside hand. NFL guys are going to be able to time his punches and bull rush the shit out of him. So he has to work on changing his punch up a little bit, but you'll hear that he's a top 10 lock. He's a top 10 guy. Oh, a top, if he's the tackle on the board, I'll run up the card. He's amazing. Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on it because I've watched him quite a bit. So don't buy the Fashanu hype. Not yet. I want to watch Fuaga. I want to watch Latham. I want to watch some of the other guys to really formulate who I would want at 10. But for right now, if he's the lock slam dunk pick at 10, if he's there, then again, I don't have a lot of hope for a Dunze, Fuaga, or any one of these other guys. So I'm just going to squash that right off the bat because that's the main narrative I've been hearing about Fashanu, and I think it is completely false. So we'll see. We'll see how I feel about the other guys, but that's the first thing off the bat. But a reach at 10, I don't know about Fuaga yet. I'm not going to spurt out things I don't know about. Did I watch YouTube highlights for 5 minutes? Yeah, but that's not enough an opinion. So I'll get back to you, Christian. I plan on watching Bowers, Fuaga, and then either Odunze or Latham in whatever order 4 and 5 there. But Fuaga will be, I'll have him done within the next week or two. So I'll have my opinion completely formulated on him. But the Fashanu hype is to me right now, it's way over warranted. But again, you only need one big draft guy to put it out there that he is a top 5 lock. And then you're going to get everybody else saying the same thing because everybody else reads the same stuff. And then they kind of put it out there as their own. I'm sorry to be so brash and abrasive about it, but it's just the truth. It is what it is because I've seen it a lot with the draft stuff, a lot. Evan Neal, remember that. Just remember that, how hyped that guy was. And everybody loved him. Oh, he's so great, all this stuff. He sucked in college. I'm sorry. He did. And somebody asked me the other day, like, oh, well, what would your grade have been? I wouldn't have been happy with Evan Neal in the second round in that draft. That's just is what it is. And he can turn out to be a good player. The thing is, and it's always, you kind of gotta, it's a little bit difficult sometimes because you're kind of grading what the player is now at a certain time. And with Fashanu, he's a guy who I don't think it's a slam dunk pick at 10. Do I think he could develop into being a really, really good tackle in the future? I do. But do I think he's some slam dunk home run prospect? Absolutely not. I just don't. But nonetheless, Dakota, and here again, we got this. Joe Blewett, Alter Fashanu, see, right there. There we go. And again, I'm just going to be very honest, and that's why I maybe a little bit brash sometimes, but Fashanu is not some lock to me. J.C. Latham is Mekhi Becton Jr. And this is the part of the year time kind of where I'll welcome any chats, anything like that, but I will question some people in terms of like why. Like, why is J.C. Latham Mekhi Becton Jr.? Is he Mekhi Becton Jr. because he's big? Because Becton was what? Like, he's 6'7", 370, 360, whatever he is. And I think Latham's like 6'6", 340 or something like that. So is he Becton because he's also big but not quite as big? Or is he Becton because he plays right tackle? Like, what's the reasoning for that opinion? You know, so we'll see. Because I can go watch J.C. Latham and say that I like him better than Fashanu. There will be no just going with the tide here. That's not going to happen. So John Hassel, what is up, my friend? Dakota, Devontae Adams, number 17 soon. Yeah, you had Morstead give Garrett Wilson his number 5, and then Devontae Adams not even tagged in it, liked it. So it's definitely a very real possibility. Now we got to talk about the trade compensation. What do we think is fair? It's not going to be a first round pick. Is it a second? Is it a third? You know, it's I think it would be probably around there, maybe a little bit more, 2025 second and like this year's 4th or 5th or something like that. I know I've looked into the cap a little bit and exactly how much it's going to hurt, but I know the first year it's not going to hurt the Jets so bad, but I think in the future years it might hurt. But with that being said, if he's coming to join up with Rodgers, then maybe it's a 2-year deal and he helps out the Jets and renegotiates the contract a little bit. But I think it's definitely a good chance for Devontae. I would put him as one of the more likely options for the Jets. If he's not going to be in Vegas, which he could be, I think he personally, kind of like attested or whatever you want to say for Pierce. So maybe he stays there. There's nothing forcing, their hands to trade him to the Jets. But with that being said, if the Raiders want to rebuild, is it smart to rebuild with a 31-year-old wide receiver with a massive cap hit? Probably not. So do they look to trade him? It's definitely a real possibility. Past that, what happens with Higgins? Do the Bengals have the cap space to make that happen? We got to see with that. Michael Pittman, he seems to be like he's probably going to re-sign with the Colts unless he's asking for an astronomical amount of money. But with that being said, if he's asking for that, do we even want to pay him that? And then there's some options like Calvin Ridley, who I think is a very real guy that the Jets should look into. I really liked him, just watching him in passing, what he could do. People will say you need a big receiver outside of Garrett Wilson. Again, tell me why. Because you don't need a big receiver in today's NFL. There are plenty of guys who, there are plenty of teams who don't have a big receiver, a la the Kansas City Chiefs, who do completely fine, So, yeah, I think Devontae's real. I think you probably maybe Higgins is out there. I think Evans resigns. I think Pittman resigns or his tag. So you hope for Adams or Higgins, and I think your next options after that are the Calvin Ridley's probably the next best option, and then like the third tier of options are pairing up a guy like, I don't know, Boyd and Cook or Boyd and a draft pick or something like that. My camera's like cutting out like that sometimes. I don't know if you guys are seeing it, but I am. So I might have to play with the settings a little bit because I could see some like kind of like almost like grainy behind me, and then the camera's cutting out, so I don't know what's going on. Nonetheless, Devontae Adams, OBJ, and Jamal Adams soon. Unfortunately soon. I can see like in a situation where, okay, the Jets don't land on one of the big fish, they get Tyler Boyd and OBJ. Now, that's assuming that OBJ doesn't want a $15 million contract. If he's going to sign here for $5 million, okay, then you have, some, and again, this is not my first plan, but if you have Garrett Wilson, Boyd, OBJ, Lazard, and like a draft pick, okay, not necessarily something that we are signing up for, but at the same point, you got to realize that we're not going to get all of our first options in free agency. So that shit might happen. You don't know. What I can tell you is that Lazard cannot be your number 2. That is for sure. So, Jaden Daniels to NY Patriots. Yeah, we'll see. I will say, I don't know what happens with them. What's up, fans? Are you ready for the offseason? Yeah, I'm ready. Like I said, Eagle, it is definitely the most fun, but the most annoying time. I'll go on Twitter and stuff like during the season. It is what it is. The offseason, I just try to steer clear because I don't want my opinion to be swayed by people. And 2, again, Fashanu, lock top 10. Why? Because of a scouting report on Draft Network and YouTube highlights and your mock draft that went Fashanu alt 1-2. So now he's the lock at top 10. The opinions are based on very shallow stuff. It just is what it is. Brock Bowers possibly New York Jets. That's another option, Dakota. And I'll watch him too because realistically, and we can't necessarily trust everything that the Jets put out there, but if they were considering Michael Mayer last year, at 15, and he was not even close to the prospect that Brock Bowers is supposed to be, if they considered him last year, And now this year, you're going to get rid of CJ Uzama. So a better prospect with one less tight end, is Bowers a possibility at 10? I think he very much he can be. And looking at Fashanu right now, and if I really like Bowers, if Fashanu to me is a B prospect, a B plus prospect, and Brock Bowers is a slam dunk A, I get it's not necessarily at a huge position of need, but if he's going to be that dude, then he's that dude. Then you put a guy like Ruckert into a more fullback, H-back, like hybrid type of role, and you try to use him in some creative ways with heavier boxes. But if you get Bowers, that's a weapon, and it's not like you have. And obviously, we want to get a receiver too. But let's say if we were to land, okay, let's just say 10 is Bowers. Okay, or let's say 10 is Odunze. Okay, then we're going to want to run more 11 personnel. We're going to want to go a little bit later. If we draft the Bowers, then we don't have to go 11 personnel. You get your third receiver off the field, then you just have two receivers, and then you're going to run more 12. So it's definitely a possibility for sure. I'm fine with Bowers if he's there for effort. Sure. Yeah, I'm getting Bowers on Monday, John Hassel. So I will, by the next stream, I'll have a really good idea of how I feel about him. I'll probably get 4 or 5 games done. I typically watch the whole season, but I would say after 4 or 5 games, you have a pretty good idea of what a guy is. So I'll watch him. And again, it's a passing. He's a weapon, and he can also obviously help if he is that good of a blocker. He can help the tackles and things like that. So Coach Mayo, Bowers and Rodgers would be good together. Yeah, it's definitely possible. I want to watch. I want to watch first. Again, I don't know why it's skipping out. I really don't know why it's happening. I've whatever. I'll figure all that shit out. I suck at technology. Where's Ryan when you need him? All right. I caught Blewett Blitz live. What's up, Harlem? Evan Neal, yeah. Bowers may be taken by the time the Jets are on the clock. Of course, you have to assume that at least at this point, and everything, a lot of stuff can change. It's only January 12th. But with that being said, you're gonna have at least 3 quarterbacks in the top 10, right? You're gonna have Harrison Jr. in the top 10, or before the Jets go to the top 9. Sorry. So you need to find 6 more guys you like. So you got Fashanu, Fuaga, Bowers, Odunze, Neighbors. I would say those are one of those 5 guys you'd really want. Now, maybe we like a Mims, maybe we like whoever else, but we'll see. AVT might not be ready week 1. Any thoughts? I saw that there was questions about it, but then I also saw that his Achilles tear is a little bit higher in the calf, John, which is apparently a little bit more conducive to quicker recovery. So he tore it pretty early, and it's not as bad as we thought in terms of the placement of the injury or where the injury actually happened. So I think he should be ready. And if he's not, then we're really just fucked, man. This offensive line is crazy. I don't know what's going to happen. The one thing I would say, and this is another, I think just to me, it's a myth, or maybe not a myth, but I think people, I don't know. I don't know how to formulate this sentence, but AVT is not as good of a tackle as he is a guard. Yeah, I don't think it's very close. I don't give a shit what the numbers say. We've said that before. I think AVT is a Pro Bowl, all pro level guard. When he plays tackle, I think he's pretty average. And that's what I see. Again, regardless of what the numbers say. So I would rather have an all pro guard than an average tackle. If you're just telling me to start an offensive line from scratch, hey, average tackle, all pro guard, which one do you want? Now, with that being said, I do understand that there's some, tackles hard to get and all this stuff, but ideally you keep the player at his best position. The thing that I think is interesting is I think Laken Tomlinson post June 1st, if you designate his cut post June 1st, I think you save 8 dead. Maybe it's vice versa. Maybe it's 8 saved, 10 dead. Regardless, the question is, can you find a better guard or center who then Laken Tomlinson for 10, let's just say $9 million, for $9 million? Can you find a guy like that? In my opinion, you could. So with that being said, okay, then you find that guard or that center. You have some flexibility with Tibbin. I think Tibbin's a guy who you can decide this year where you want him to be long-term, center or guard. To me right now, with his snap issues and how I saw him play at guard, I actually thought he might've been a little bit better at guard when he played there. So you have a guy who's better at guard in limited sample size at guard because he practiced mostly at center. So in a smaller sample size, he was better at guard, and at center, he's been having snap issues. So if you can get rid of Laken Tomlinson, and then, maybe get a guard, maybe get a center, and then you kind of have some flexibility with Joe Tibbin there, left guard or center. So let's try to find a guard or a center, and then move Tippmann, and then we'll see what happens with the other positions. Trent Brown, guy from Tyron Smith, from the Cowboys. We'll see. I can tell you that AVT at right tackle or left tackle would not be my plan. Again, I get the easy thing is to move him to tackle and just get a guard because guards are easier to find, but I'd rather have the all-pro guard. That just is what it is. So we got to get a better interior line. Yeah, for sure. Latham is 360 because he plays right tackle. Okay, yeah. I thought he was a little bit lighter, and obviously, again, I'm very early into it. I didn't even watch Latham yet, so I don't want to speak. I don't want to speak about him in terms of what he is and if he's Becton. If he's not Becton, because he could be really good in pass pro and suck in the run game. Then he's nothing like Becton. But I don't want to compare people just based on size. So Jan. Appreciate you, buddy. Been a while. Hope all is good, Joe. Yeah, everything is great. Happy New Year to everybody. Probably the most overrated holiday, nonetheless. Happy writing 2-4 at the end of year 2020, after your 2-0 instead of 2-3. But nonetheless, good year. Good start to the year. I'm excited to get into the offseason. Baby's popping out soon, any day now. So I'm waiting for that. It could happen now. Due in about 12 days. So really excited for that, but I'm really excited to get into Brock Bowers, even maybe more so than seeing my newborn, but obviously I'm kidding. But yeah, I hope all is good as well, Jan. I appreciate the super chat as always. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go move up. Sorry. And I have some things I want to hit on in terms of the notes, but I think we're going to hit on it kind of as we go. Anyway, where was I? Evan Neal. Get a better interior offensive line for sure. I think bringing McGovern, well, one, you have Schweitzer, right? Because he's under contract for this year. To me, bringing McGovern back for $1 million, $1.5 million, the fact that he signed for 1.2, 1.3 last year was pretty ridiculous. But if you can get him and Schweitzer as your backups, okay, I'm cool with the Schweitzer, McGovern backup level players. And then again, I think you could find a guy better than Laken Tomlinson for $8 million in free agency. I think Laken Tomlinson is a bad, it's just straight up bad. Can you find bad for $8 million? I think so. I think you might be able to find average for $8 million. So let's do average. I want to do that. So I'm hoping that Tomlinson's out of here. Then the problem is, okay, you got to find 3 new guys instead of 2 new guys. We'll see what happens. It seems to be with how free agency is going to play out. It seems like the Jets will add some type of receiver or receivers, and then the draft most likely will be a tackle or Bowers, in my opinion. But we'll see with the receivers too, because there are plenty of receivers who get way overhyped. Treylon Burks a couple years ago was way, way overhyped. So I could watch a Dunze and be like, dude, if they take him at 10, I will completely question the Jets' judgment, which we have before. Uzama, Tomlinson, Cook. It was a bad one. So the Jets can be silly sometimes. You heard that they were, pretty close with OBJ, and OBJ got like $14-15 million for the Ravens this year, and on an offense that produced at really good levels for the most part. He got like 400 yards. Can you imagine if we signed OBJ and Lazard? They made $26 million to combine for, I don't even know what Lazard got, 200 yards for 700 yards. We paid $27 million, something like that. Like that would be really bad. So the Jets, you can question their trades. They're in. I know people don't want to hear it. I know some people roasted Scott Mason from Play Like a Jet for this because he spoke pretty outwardly about it. But even the fact that they gave up what they did for Rodgers, the Packers fleeced them a little bit because they didn't have anywhere else to trade them. So the Jets are not necessarily the best run franchise, and I don't trust Joe Douglas. So we're gonna break it down. We're going to break it down. And if we don't like it, we're going to say we don't like it. It is what it is. And I know people want the eternal optimist and all that bullshit, but that's not why you're here. But that's also why I don't have 9,000 or 10,000 subs yet. So it is what it is. I can blow smoke up your guys' ass, but I'll never do that. So let's see. Superfan, what's up, Joe? Go Jets. Yeah, go Jets 2024. Undefeated, 17-3 against the Pats. Now the big question is Bryce Huff, 2 sacks. What happens with him? We'll see what happens. The franchise tag is what, $22 million. So is that a little bit rich for Bryce Huff? I think it is. I think he's more around the $15, $16, $17 million a year player. And the easy thing is to say tag and trade. Okay, tag and trade. But the problem is, would anybody even pay him $23 million in free agency? I'm not saying he's not a good player. Do I think he's worth $23 million? Probably not. So now, hey, new team, you have to give him $23 million and a second or a third round pick for that. I don't know. That's a lot. So who is going to be willing to do that, to give a second or third round pick for a contract that you probably wouldn't have even paid in free agency? So then the question comes to, okay, do you let him walk for a second or third round comp pick next year? Because if you do tag and trade him, you might not even get a third round pick. So then would you rather take a 2024 fourth or fifth instead of a 2025 third? So it's a legitimate question. So I think the best option for them, it might be at this point, to try to sign him for 16, 17, 18 million dollars. If not, I don't know if a tag and trade is as simple as people think it is. So who would be the number one option between Garrett and Davante Adams? I would say at this point it's Garrett. I think Garrett, with a really good quarterback, is probably going to be the better player next year. And again, people will oh my God, that's crazy, whatever. But Davante's 31. Now, in terms of target share and that stuff, maybe Aaron Rodgers would favor a Davante Adams. But right now, in a vacuum, no contract, nothing considered, Garrett Wilson or Davante Adams in the Jets next year for your Super Bowl run. Again, nothing else considered, I'm thinking Garrett Wilson. So I think Garrett Wilson is a at least a top 10 guy. Davante Adams, after watching him, I might think he's the 13th, 14th, 15th best guy in the NFL, however you quantify that. So in a vacuum right now, with not a lot of film to back it up, I would say Garrett Wilson. Davante, again, 31 years old, 1,100 yards, playing with a bunch of scrubs, kind of the same situation with Garrett Wilson, but one's on an upward trajectory, one's on a downward trajectory. So I still think Davante would be, again, a top 15 receiver. And if you have two top 15 receivers on your team with Aaron Rodgers and a halfway decent offensive line with the top 5 defense, watch out. The problem is, how do you fit all the other offensive linemen and shit? So let's see. A bunch of regulars aren't here. Maybe they're commuting home from work. Usually way more people in here. Yeah, John. No, it's people are trickling in. It happens. That's the problem too. I know earlier stream. Maybe I should start at like 6. Maybe I'll start at 6 o'clock, because the problem is West Coast and stuff like that. So maybe we'll start at 6. Rich Sama, hello, Jets X Factor, best listen of all Jets podcasts. I appreciate that. Is Keith Carter really that bad? Braden asks. It's kind of hard to say, because I'm not in the room. I don't know how he's coaching stuff. I can tell you that the players clearly don't like him. I guess we'll get into this, but you have a terrible offensive line situation, letting up tons of pressures, tons of sacks. You have JD coming out and defending how great the job was with all the new guys, which whatever. I get that injuries are going to sink the offensive line in their performance. But with that being said, you have Taylor Lewan, who criticized him. I believe you had Adam Pankey, who was on the Jets, who liked to tweet criticizing him. You have Mekhi Becton, who responded to Taylor Lewan. Taylor Lewan said, it was basically like a shout out to Mike Vrabel. And he's like, oh yeah, great coaching staffs besides Keith Carter in parentheses. And Mekhi Becton said, that third paragraph, which criticized Keith Carter, is true. And then you have Breece Hall, quoting it or quoting Taylor Lewan's thing with laughing emojis. People are like, oh, how do you know that's him shitting on Keith Carter? One, just context clues. People don't like him, so I don't think Breece is gonna come out laughing face, no, this is my coach. And two, if I was going to defend my coach, I wouldn't just put laughing emojis. I'd be like, oh no, Keith Carter's a great guy, not just laughing emojis, because in he knows what he's doing. He's adding fuel to the fire. So you have players who criticize him. You have players who say he's too hard in practice, and guys got injured because of it. The Jets were one of the most injured offensive lines in the NFL, with an offensive line coach who was criticized for overexerting his guys in practice. So yeah, I think he's pretty shitty. But the Jets decided to not get rid of him. So that was wild. In terms of that. Then you also, and the Jets just in general, it's kind of embarrassing with the coaching staff, in my opinion, and with Joe Douglas, because they are professional excuse makers. You have Garrett Wilson, who comes out and says this shit can't happen again. This is a terrible year. He has to get better. So you have players who are 22, 23 years old who are taking accountability and saying, we suck, have to get better. And then you have guys like Saleh and JD who come out there and who are saying, oh, well, the injuries, oh, well, this, oh, well, that, oh, well, the wind was blowing more than we expected. Oh, the ground was wet that day. Oh, this and that. So it really pisses me off that you just hear them consistently make excuses and not just come out and say, hey guys, sorry, Jets fans, 2023 fucking sucked. We sucked. We underperformed. We're going to get better. But instead it's, oh, well, this and that and that, it's so it's very annoying. And again, I don't listen to all the interviews at this point because they annoy the shit out of me. But it is really fucking annoying to hear the players have more accountability than the coaches, when the coaches are definitely supposed to have more accountability. And then you have, Joe Douglas come out and he's asked why Saleh is the right man for the job. And his response is he's the right man for the job because he's the right man for the job. Like saying like, oh, he's the right man for the job. So why not hire fucking Gandhi then? Gandhi's probably a great guy. Why don't we hire him? I don't give a fuck about a good guy. I want a good head coach. He's the right man for the job because he's the right man. What a stupid fucking thing to say. So they cannot just stop putting their foots in their mouth. And then on top of that, you had Saleh a couple of months ago who said he wanted to be a redshirt year for Zach Wilson. And I'm sure the Jets heard about the backlash about that tweet or that quote or whatever it is. And then Joe Douglas comes out and says the same thing. They wanted a redshirt year for Zach Wilson. Then what the fuck are you doing? Sign a backup quarterback. No, we said this for months before the season. Months. If not March, April, we said it. And the Jets wanted a redshirt year, admitted that, and then still didn't bring a backup quarterback. So the way they handle their business is pretty brutal. I guess I'll just get oh yeah, by the way, Tristan Colon is another guy who apparently liked that tweet. Adam Pankian, again, another guy on the Jets, in the Jets like kind of circle who liked that tweet criticizing Keith Carter, and he was here in the offseason. Clearly he was even worked too hard in the offseason because Tristan Colon didn't like him. And then in terms of the offensive line, another thing is you had Saleh come out and say that and I don't know what the exact quote was, but he basically said that Saffold and that signing didn't not work out. So you have all these guys who get signed mid-season, whatever it may be, and going in and start for teams and play well. The Jets signed Saffold, a former Pro Bowler, which we all know is complete bullshit. He doesn't play a game for the Jets, but that signing worked out. Which again, kind of brings me back to what we said when he was signed, because we were talking about all these guys. I forget who, Ezra Cleveland, right? The guy from Cleveland to the Vikings or Vikings to Cleveland, however I forget exactly which way it went, but a guy who was playing pretty well, a guy who Jets fans were begging for, were at least asking for. He gets traded for, and we're all wanting that, and then the Jets don't do shit in a time where they were 4-3, 4-4. They had an opportunity to legitimately make the playoffs, and they looked at their offensive line and how it was performing, and they said, no, it's fine. And then Saffold, in my opinion, was a passer fire move. They bring in Saffold. Jets fans, shut the fuck up. We'll bring in Saffold. And the offensive line continues to go to shit. You have guys like Xavier Newman, UDFAs playing over Roger Saffold. Like, why even bring him in then? So did you bring him in and not realize that he sucks? Like, what was the reason of even bringing him in? So pretty brutal there. We'll get into, I guess I'll get into some of the other quotes from that one. You have Hackett, and this is just in general with our coaching staff that annoys the shit out of me. You had, I think it was Hackett or Saleh say like, oh yeah, Myles Garrett's a pretty good player, but they didn't really do much to contain him. So they just learned, this coaching staff, that Myles Garrett's a good player. I remember during week 2, with Michael Parsons, like, oh yeah, he's a lot faster or whatever they said. Or they said like he's a lot faster, he's a lot better than we thought he was. I think it was faster than we thought he was. It's like, what are you doing prior to the game? Are you watching film to plan for these guys? And then you also have Hackett, midway through the season or some point midway through the season, talking about how they thought or they figured out that Breece Hall is a better receiver than they thought than they thought he was. So again, what the fuck are you doing? If you don't know Breece is a good receiver, if you don't know Michael Parsons is fast, and if you don't know Myles Garrett's good. Saleh also says Lazard will be better next year. I hope so, because the guy was benched for 4 or 5 games. What were Lazard's stats? Let's see. Allen Lazard stats. Is there a way to be worse? Is there a way to be, again, guy who was signed for 4 years, $44 million. He was benched again 4 or 5 games for Jason Brownlee and Xavier Gibson, 2 UDFAs. And there was the last game or the Browns game where Lazard was benched and Randall Cobb is playing over him. A guy who was making no money is playing over a guy who's making $11 million a year. you're talking about a whopping 23 catches for 311 yards for $11 million a year. I hope he's better, Saleh. Thank you. I appreciate that because he cannot get much worse. So bad. Garrett Wilson, this is the worst year of his life. Another situation where you're concerned. And I always bring it back to this. I remember going to Jets games when I was a kid and absolutely loving whoever it might have been. Vilma. It was probably like Vilma and some of those guys when I was a kid. And I remember going to the games and we would lose. I remember specifically, my friend's grandpa was like, these guys are going to leave in a couple of years when their contract's up. And I remember my little kid heart, I'm like, no, like they'll never leave. They're Jets for life. They love the Jets. And he basically said like, no, they fucking suck. And they're a mess of an organization. Why would you want to stay here? And then those players left. And it's been happening since then. So if they don't turn it around, do you lose Garrett Wilson? Do you lose Sauce? And you're starting again. And you're praying to God you can find guys like that you or guys like them who you already have on the roster, but you might not be able to resign because they're done with your bullshit. That wasn't great with Garrett Wilson. That hurt a little bit. And then just on top of it, the cherry on top of just the mess that this organization has been and how they've been in the media, you have the last game, Breece Hall gets 180 all-purpose yards, whatever it is, and he needs 6 yards to get 1,000, which the Jets were apparently going for, and they miscount. They can't even add right. We're not talking about multiplication. We're not talking about division, long division, calculus, nothing. We're talking about adding. The Jets' professional staff cannot fucking add. Math, just simple math, adding. They can't do it. Like how bad? It's so bad that only the Jets cannot add. 2 + 2 is 4. 4 + 4 is 8. Jets can't do that shit. That is too complicated. And then on top of that, again, I'm ranting a little bit because these are some of the notes I have. We're getting through it. I'll get to the chat. On top of that, not only do you not get the 1,000 yards, you also fall short while putting in a meaningless game, your running back who came off of an ACL tear at risk with 37 carries. Do we really need to give him 37 carries to try to get him over 1,000 yards? Is that really the smartest thing to do, Saleh? Or would you like imagine if on that 36 carry he got injured because we're trying to get him 1,000 yards? I don't know. Seems pretty stupid to me. And again, it's people are always results versus process. On process versus results. The process of that was fucking stupid. I'm sorry, it is. 37 carries in week 18 to get you 1,000 yards. Again, what if he got hurt? And then they can't even do the math right. So none of it even mattered. Brutal. I'll get back to the chat. Sorry for ranting. Again, I'm negative. I get it. But it's just real. It's just realistic, right? I don't know. Need to keep Huff and get Bowers or one of the top 2 tackles. I think Latham too fat. Okay. We'll see. Yeah. I got to see his frame and how he carries it because certain guys carry 360 much better than other guys carry 360. Mekhi Becton carried 370 pretty well. You put 370 on another guy, he's a fat ass. So it kind of depends on how his frame is. But Bowers, yes, I'm kind of with that, at least what I've seen so far. I think I'm going to really like him. And the top 2 tackles, again, I'm not sure who the top 2 tackles are. If Fashanu is a lock better than all the other guys, maybe the class isn't as good as I thought it was. And in terms of Huff too, you have him saying that he's not going to give the Jets a hometown discount, which I completely understand. He wants to make his money. He has a short window to maximize his opportunities and maximize his money making. But he says he's not going to give the Jets a hometown discount. But he also says that he wants to play more snaps. I forget exactly how it was labeled or how exactly he said that he wants to play more snaps, but can the Jets even give that to him? Can the Jets let him play 50, 60, 70% of the snaps? I don't think so. And it might be a situation where you have a JFM versus a Huff because you're going to have JJ who's going to play most of the rundown snaps and most of the pass rush snaps. Obviously, he really improved this year, 7.5 sacks, really good in the run game, plenty of pass deflections, a pass deflection pick for a touchdown. He balled out, so he's more of a full-time edge rusher. But past that, JFM is another guy who's more of a full-time edge rusher. So can you afford to give Huff the reps that he wants with JFM here? I kind of think you might have to choose between Huff and JFM. I don't think you could have JJ a first-round pick, McDonald a first-round pick, Huff making, let's say, $18 million a year, $16, $17 million a year. JFM making $16-17 million a year and say, oh yeah, our offensive line's ass, but we're going to dedicate all this stuff to the defensive line. I don't think it's going to happen. I think at this point, it's probably going to be a decision between JFM and Huff. For me personally, who would I want? I would take Huff. You're looking at 10.5 sacks in a year where they were down plenty in really ugly games where teams weren't forced to throw the ball because the Jets, or they knew the Jets couldn't score. So now you put them on a team where they're going to be up a lot, hopefully, and teams are going to hopefully know that Aaron Rodgers is going to put up some points because he's doing well in camp and doing well in regular season. Does that 10.5 sacks turn into 16? Very easily, it could. Very easily. So do I value pass rush over run defense? Yes, especially in a year where you're going to be putting up points or hopefully putting up points. So if you get rid of JFM's, I think like $14.5 million, I think you can pretty cleanly get rid of him and take 14 of that million, or 14 million of that and sign Huff for $17 million a year. I'm for it. I don't think you can keep all of those guys. It's just not realistic with the holes they have in offense at this point. So that's got to flip Huff for a draft pick. With that said, I may be in the minority here, but I really don't want to give up any draft capital for Adams. I rather overpay Higgins or Evans if they don't get tagged. Nicholas, I'm with you. And I gotta read an article or something about like how exactly his cap hit's going to work out now, depending on Devontae Adams and how he reformulates his contract. That can obviously have some effect on my opinion, but yeah, I'd rather just pay a guy. You know, how much worse is Higgins at 25, 26 than Adams at 31, 32? You know, Evans, okay, he's not as good as Adams, but if he's going to come at 16, 17, $18 million a year, even 20 versus Adams, you know, money and a draft pick, you know, I'm okay with Evans. Or even a guy like Calvin Ridley. I think he's been overlooked a lot. I didn't hear his name at all. And I was looking at some free agents and receivers, and I saw Calvin Ridley pop up. I'm like, damn, dude, like Calvin Ridley's a good player. And I know he had his whole situation, gambling and all that shit, stupid, whatever. But you're talking about a 27, I think 26, 27-year-old receiver who is a stud number 2. He's a low tier 1 in my opinion, and a stud 2. So I would love to get him maybe even over Adams as well. And again, very early into it, I can watch Ridley, I can watch Adams and have a completely different opinion, baseline stuff. I would still maybe prefer Adams, but I think it's closer than people realize with those two guys. No skills. With the super chat, I appreciate it. Garrett Wilson got hurt on a garbage play in the fourth quarter as well. So if it turns out that the neck injury, that'll affect him in the future. Yeah, I get Garrett Wilson like wanting to play. Garrett Wilson needed 6 catches. They weren't force feeding them the ball. Like you're gonna play your players and you're gonna put them out there. So I'm not gonna be overly critical of them with Garrett Wilson and him, you know, getting 4 or 5 targets and getting late hit by Jabril Peppers. I think that's a little bit different than running your guy into the ground for a meaningless stat. Realistically, it's meaningless. And it's great to say, yeah, I got 1,000 yards. It's cool for Breece Hall, but is it worth 37 carries? Again, what if he got hurt? I just don't think it's very smart. So no skills. I appreciate the super chat. I think it's a little bit different. I do, but point taken. Let's see. Okay. I'll lock up that deal. Yeah. Keith Carter. Seems like everybody hates that guy, minus the Jets. So I heard Mims is most likely going back to college. Is he? I thought he wasn't, but he might be another raw guy. And that's kind of the question I have with Fashanu. He's definitely raw. So I don't think he's going to be great in year 1. And if he's raw in year 1, in a year you're trying to go for the Super Bowl, is it worth it? Or do you take a guy who maybe has a lower ceiling, but is more pro ready? It's a legitimate question. Cut Lakin hoping to draft left tackle, sign Mike Owenu for right tackle, and Dotson for guard. Keep ABT at guard. Thoughts? Again, I want to watch, but am I down for the only problem with Owenu is he's had some injury concerns, right? So do you have to add another guy with him in terms of like depth? I think it's. But with that being said, what's better out there? I'm a Jets super fan. Like it's a good point because Tyron Smith is old and injured. Jonah Williams is overrated and injured. Past that, Trent Brown is older and injured. So I think Onwenu might be a legitimate option. You know, get Onwenu and then get another like swing tackle, whoever that may be. Again, people are going to want to hear the name. Oh my God, he sucked or whatever, but I would take him in a swing tackle any day. You sign Onwenu and Kelvin Beachum. a guy who could play left tackle, right tackle in a pinch, and he's your fourth or fifth tackle on the team. You hope some other guys, step up, whatever it may be. But, could an Onwenu with a first round pick and Kelvin Beachum be the answer to tackle? Yeah. Again, I know people want to put all the big names out there and act like it's Madden, but that's a very realistic scenario. You don't need a stud offensive line. You need an okay one, a well-rounded group with good depth. Onwenu, when he's healthy, I think is an average or plus average, tackle. Again, I can change my opinion on that. So don't take that as kind of like gospel or whatever, like as my final opinion. But I think he could be a solid player. Again, the tackle in the first round. Okay, cool. And then Dotson for guard. Again, I don't really know him, but is he better than Laken Tomlinson? Probably yes. So I'm cool with that. But AVT at guard, yeah, that's my goal too. He's a much better player there. I don't know why they keep playing at tackle. The fuck idiot organization. Shake my head. Says Co. Yeah, I'm with you, Co. I get in a pinch moving him out there, but for people saying, "Oh, just move him out to tackle, keep him there," I don't know, man. The film is a lot different. Joe, bro, I was blocked in Jake Aspen chat for saying that same thing about AVT. Oh, guard versus tackle. Why the fuck is my camera doing that? I keep happening. Yeah, I don't know how you said that, Snoopy, but if that's the only reason and people can't handle people disagreeing with their opinions, and it is what it is. But, it is, I don't know, man. Just ask people to back up their opinions. Why? Is he actually better at tackle? Can you prove that? Is he just as good? Prove it. Because what I've heard is he's better at guard, or I've seen that he's better at guard, but I'm not saying Jake or anything like that, but some people have like shadow opinions and stuff. So when you contest their opinions, they're going to block you or anything like that because they can't necessarily debate you. Happens. I'm not saying him either. I don't want anybody to take that as a shot at him or anything like that. But I'm saying, if that's the only thing people are blocking you for, not ideal. Now, if you're spamming his chat over and over and over again and calling him an asshole or an idiot, it's a little bit different. But if you just said, hey, I think that ABT is a better guard than a tackle, and you got blocked, then that should be frowned upon a little bit. But I wasn't there, so I don't want to speak to it. So, hell yeah, he's been average at best. Lakeland is not it. It's not even average, Co. He was okay in the beginning of the year at guard for like 2 or 3 games, and then he went right back to 2022. Laken Tomlinson, he's pretty brutal. Oh, you're talking about Tippmann. Yeah, Tippmann. I'm cool with him. I'm cool with him playing guard next year. Balled out at center. Yeah, but he was also really good at guard too. Like it's not like there was a drop off at guard when he played there. I know it's a smaller sample size, but with that being said, you also had some pretty clear snap issues with Joe Tippmann. So he might be good, like PFF numbers and all that stuff. I don't know if they track like snap location. I could tell you that a guy who in Hard Knocks had a whole segment dedicated to him picking grass and throwing into the wind and likes his ball to be a certain way or throwing him in a certain way. If Tippmann's fucking throwing it up here, then he's not going to pull that. He's not going to deal with that shit for a long time. So I think he could be just as good of a guard. So I think he has some flexibility guard center. I don't like the conversation AVT guard tackle. I just don't see it. I don't see it again. Whatever the numbers say, I think it's based on film. I think it's pretty evident he's a much better guard. So overrate players just because they're Jets. Yeah, that happens. And you think people would learn because the Jets have been, I don't know, missing the playoffs for 13 years straight now. Maybe we shouldn't overrate our own players, but it tends to happen. It definitely tends to happen. He got hurt both times when he played tackle. What are your thoughts on Fuaga? Yeah. Cow? I'll call you Cow. I don't know yet. I honestly don't know yet. I've heard Fuaga is a guy who is more of like a good guard than a tackle. With that being said, I can completely change my opinion. Legitimately, I could hear, oh, he's a guard watching a tackle. I'm like, dude, he's a better tackle. So I will have that for you in a couple of weeks. Give me a week or two, and I'll have a good idea. What I plan on doing is I'm probably not like I usually watch every single game of that player. I think what I'm going to do is for like next stream, if I get all this film, I'm going to watch like 3 games of each. I'm going to watch 3 games of Fuaga, 3 games of Latham, 3 games of Odunze, 3 games of Bowers, and start my like general scouting report on those guys. So I can have like a baseline opinion for you guys. And then I'll go back and watch the other 6, 7, 8 games. And then I'll really formulate it. But I want to have a little bit of like a base to talk about with these guys because I can't answer this question right now. And I won't, because that would be me being a hypocrite. Joe says, take another center guard like Tippmann in the draft. Rookie Tippmann, ABT in the middle of the line works. Yeah, but Tippmann was a second round pick, and we don't have a second round pick. So with that being said, how are the guards centers in the third round? Is there anybody that you can bank on? Do I think that a guard in the third round is the answer at offensive line in the interior? No. Do I think that a $5, $6, $7 million guard and then a guy in the third or fourth round could be an answer for depth? Yes. Do I think that should be should I be relying on a third or fourth round guy in a Super Bowl or bust year, realistically, or at least a deep playoff run and bust type of years? Do I want that? No. Joe Nelson says, what are your initial thoughts on Bowers? Congrats. Yeah. Thank you, Joe. I'm fucking really, really excited. The days are going by really, really slowly. I just want him to be here, but Bowers, I like what I see so far. I think he's a mauler. I like his mindset. I think he's going to be a guy who's legitimately a very good blocker, good yak, good. He can go up and get it. With that being said, I've done 1% of my evaluation on Bowers. 1. So that I can come back next Friday and be like, dude, this guy sucks. Just like Zach Kuntz. People can make a freaking 5-10 minute YouTube highlight of how fucking good Zach Kuntz is, and I watch him, and I think he's the worst contested catch guy I've ever seen in my life. But you could take 4 or 5 contested catches, put it into a 5-minute video, and blow smoke up his ass. When in reality, he sucked at contested catches. So I was watching. I watched like highlights, little shit. So, his highlight plays look really good. What about the other 95% of the plays? Because anybody can have a highlight. 17-3, 1-0, 20. Yeah, I'll take 1-0. Yeah, I'm not gonna try to go crazy. Guys, I'm live at 4. Okay. All right. That is not necessarily not that I care, but is that the thing you want to do? Like go into another stream and promote yourself? That's kind of odd. NY flight Jets talk. Cancel my appearance there. I could see 17 mil for Huff, similar to a Lawson deal. Yeah, and they're still paying Lawson some dead money this year. But yeah, 17, 18, I'm cool with it. You're talking about $22 million for a franchise tag, $23 million for a guy who's going to play 50% of your snaps at max, plus Q's big contract, plus JFM's big contract, plus 2 first-round draft picks, and we're talking about a fucking third-round guard to be the answer. At a certain point, you got to distribute your resources, not to only the defensive line. The defensive line is good enough without JFM or without Huff. Like again, I want Huff. Do I want to overpay Huff? No. And it sucks, but to me right now, I would personally, and again, it's just keep them both. In a fairy tale land, you could. It's probably not realistic. I would probably trade JFM for a mid-round pick and then sign Huff. That's what I'm thinking right now. But I heard we can't get a comp pick for Huff because he's a UDFA. Is that true? No. Not to my knowledge, Braden. I'm not the best with comp picks and with all this other shit, but I don't think why would that be true? Because you can get a comp pick for a guy you sign in free agency, then he leaves in 4 or 5 years, right? Or do I just not know the comp pick formula? But I've never heard that. Wasn't there an article on Jets X Factor yesterday where it said we don't need a team to pay the full $23 million? Okay, so that could be Rivka. And admittedly, Matt, I suck with the salary cap. So if they were to tag him and then I guess they could trade him and they could eat some of the money and the other team could eat some of the money, maybe that's more of a possibility. But if they have to eat its full $22 million, it's just not as feasible. That is possible. Again, admittedly, I suck with the salary cap. Would you rather look for a receiver with size like the Bucs wide receiver? No, I don't think it matters. I think that's a really overrated thing. I value getting open. I don't value size. It's the thing with the red zone too. Oh, he's a big guy. He's going to get open in the red zone. Just get open. You can get open at 5'5" in the red zone. You just got to be good at running routes. Do I like guys who could go up and get the ball? Sure, but it's not backyard football. You're not throwing just fades in the red zone. So no, it really doesn't matter to me, Rich. It legitimately does not matter your size. That's very overrated in my opinion. How good of a wide receiver 2 do you really think we need to complement Wilson? Just a wide receiver 2. Again, and we prefer the Devonta Adams. We prefer the Evanses of the world. But I think the guys like Pittman, who are more of a receiver too. I think Calvin Ridley, who is a wide receiver 1 / low tier, maybe not even low tier, just bottom half of the league, number 1 or really high too. Like that's definitely good enough. But the problem is I don't really see a lot of like mid-tier 2s out there. You got Curtis, like past the guys I just talked about with Calvin Ridley, with Michael Pittman, with T Higgins. Those guys are like 1Bs, 1As. You're talking about like the 2s. Like a 2 to me is like a Pittman. I think Pittman's like a perfect good number 2 wide receiver, but I think he's probably going to get paid or tagged. But past that in free agency, looking at the list, it's like Brandon Cooks, Curtis Samuel, and I think they're more 3s than 2 at this point. So I could see the Jets bunching up a group of 3s. Like, okay, we have 2 really good 3s, so we don't have a 2. We don't have a 2 and 3, but we have a 3 and a 3, and hopefully that'll be good enough. If you bring in, again, not preferred, Garrett Wilson, Curtis Samuel, and Brandon Cooks, and those are your 3 receivers, okay, I think you could survive. But then hopefully, obviously, then you can hold a JFM, you can have a Huff, or you splurge in the offensive line. So I think that's a possibility. But I don't think it's like set in stone that you need another stud receiver, but we all want one. How do you feel about Keith Carter staying? I'm not happy about it. I'm just not. You literally have players on the team like liking tweets or quoting tweets about him being an asshole, and they kept him. Whatever. That's up to them. With the 10th pick, the top offensive lines and receivers off the board, who are you picking? So with that being said, who are the top offensive linemen? Who are the top receivers? Let's just say that my top tackle is Alt, which let's just say he's number 1. I'm not going to watch him because I'm assuming he's going to be gone based on everything I'm hearing. Let's say my number 1 is Fuaga, and he's not there, and I don't like Fashanu as much as other people do. And I really love Bowers. I could see Bowers. I think that's the other option. It's O-line, receiver, Bowers. But by the time the draft comes, let's say, and this is why it's so hard to talk about the draft in January, and it's kind of almost pointless at times, but let's say in 2 months when free agency opens, they sign Calvin Ridley. Do we need to get Garrett Wilson, Calvin Ridley, and Odunze? It's probably a little bit of overkill at that point. So a lot can change, but my base feeling right now is offensive line or Bowers. What do I think the reasoning on keeping Keith Carter was? Because they were professional excuse makers, and Saleh outwardly said that he really wanted Keith Carter. They like the continuity. They might like his grit and his grind and all that shit that Ulbrich talks about and Saleh talk about. But you have players who outwardly say that they do not like the man. So, and I get it's football, it's a business, but it's not 1990 anymore and freaking bullying people around and all that shit. It's you have to be a little bit more of players coach at this point. And again, you have an offensive line that was very, very injured with a guy who was criticized for working his players too hard, even though they brought in their whole new sports staff and sports medicine, all this bullshit. You had a bunch of injuries with a guy who's tied to injuries. I don't know. I don't have a lot of reasoning for them. Loyal to a fault. Yeah, beloved piece. I'm 100% with you. They are loyal to a fault. 1,000%. Keith Carter will leave and join Behavioral. Please, God, get out of here. What's your confidence level when things are not going to go correctly in 2024 that this regime is going to do the right thing? Not going correctly in 2024. You're talking about like then adding a guy at the trade market or something like that, Chris? Is that what you're talking about? I would say in past years, it's definitely low. Do I think that Saleh and Joe Douglas realize that there's a fire lit under their ass, and let's say they're, I don't know, 5-5 at the bye week, and it's not going as well as they think it is. Which, by the way, if you look at the teams now, it looks like the schedule is going to be much easier. Again, a year, 6 months, 8 months out, it looks much easier than it was this year. So I think the Jets should have a decent shot to make some noise if they make the proper moves. I have some confidence because I think they understand that they're on the hot seat. I do. But with that being said, they realize they're on a hot seat and they still have Keith Carter there. But, I don't know. Okay, going down. Sama is a troll. I don't know. I haven't had any problems with Rich Sama. Kyuka. My honest opinion is that we don't need a stud O-line. Look what Miami did with Tua. Rodgers will get the ball out quick. We need players who can get separation, so Rodgers get the ball out quick. Yeah, there's a middle ground, right? Between you don't want a really good offensive line and terrible receivers. You don't want really good receivers and a terrible offensive line. So do I think if you have a bunch of stud receivers, you can get away with a slightly below average to average offensive line? Yes, I do. But with that being said, you have a 41-year-old quarterback, a 40-year-old quarterback, you want to protect them. So do I think they should just throw out the same group and say, oh, no, fuck it, Rodgers will get rid of the ball quicker than Zach Wilson. He'll set the protections better, all this stuff. Sure, that's part of it. But do they still need to make a lot of moves to just be okay? Yeah, they do. They still need to make moves to just be okay. So I get the thinking here. Get good receivers. If you get Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson, those are your 1 and 2. And you draft freaking Bowers, then yeah, you might only need Onwenu and another guy in free agency, but they still have to do work. They still need some stuff to be even average. So, let's see who needs, which by the way, I'm really excited for some of these playoff games. That Lions Rams game is awesome. Cleveland, Houston, I'm rooting for Houston on that one. I don't like Cleveland at all. I think they're really cocky fan base. Even when they don't win shit, they talk a lot of shit. But I think I'm going to be rooting for probably like the Lions, and I'm in the AFC side. Maybe the Texans, but it's almost like they got a DC from San Fran. They got a number 2 overall pick, and it's working for them. So it almost like pisses me off that it worked for them. It's not necessarily working for us right now. But yeah, I'm excited about the playoffs. That Chiefs Dolphins team to be like -20 with wind chill, wherever it's gonna be. That's gonna be an exciting game. So enjoy the playoffs this week. But yeah, who needs Cleveland or Saffold? We have Hansen. No, not ideal. Why did the media not press JD and ask him any actual questions we wanted? Because there's, I think they're pretty soft, the New York media, to be completely honest. Like, I think there's a lot more cameras and there's a lot more attention. But in terms of like pressing and asking them, like, hey, after he said that that is a redshirt year, then hey, JD, if you say it's a redshirt year for Zach Wilson, why did you not sign a backup quarterback? Like, why is that question not asked? I don't know. No trades at the deadline. We're going to save this season. You can argue in the beginning of the season, but not during the deadline. I'm not saying it would save the season necessarily, but could it have made the offense not one of the worst offenses in the NFL in the last 50 years? Yeah, that would have been nice. So no, nothing would save the season, in my opinion. But is this therapy for us that are in the chat, or is this therapy? It's both. I think it's both. It's definitely therapy for me to come on and talk to you guys and just air out my opinions, and then get shit on or whatever. It's therapy for me, definitely. For you guys, I can't speak for you guys. For me, it is. JD as a talent innovator is seriously in question. Yeah, we've been saying that for quite a while, Christian. And again, these aren't Monday morning quarterbacking. I know. I don't know how many times in the press conference, Jared Douglas said hindsight's 2020. Well, the good thing about streaming and doing film reviews and stuff is they're time stamped. So not a lot of the stuff I'm saying is hindsight's 2020, because a lot of it is the fact that, or a lot of it was before he signed the guy or when he signed the guy or whatever it may have been. So it's not hindsight's 2020. You just kind of suck at evaluating guys. Cook was awful. We said that before. Nani got shit on. Nani is a nerd. Nani is all this stuff on Twitter because of Cook. All those fucking people didn't apologize, I'm sure. I saw plenty of them, which I should go back and start liking a lot of tweets about people who are shitting on him about the Cook thing, because a lot of them were like big wig people who were shitting on him for no reason. And he was right. So good for him. Should use Brees the way the Saints use Kamara for long. Yeah, I would like to take advantage of him as a receiver a little bit. And I guess it's a good thing that the Jets figured out halfway through the season that he could do that. Even though after Hard Knocks, like he runs a route over the middle, whatever it is, a slant underneath of like rub routes, whatever it was, and he takes it for 60-yard touchdown. Like, holy shit, this guy is fast. And he's a good receiver. So you kind of see it have a whole segment or a whole little section in Hard Knocks. But then it actually takes until 8, 9, 10 weeks of the season for them to realize that they should use him as a receiver? No. Okay. They can't even add, right? Yeah. It's bad, man. Slow-mo guy, what is up? It's my 47th birthday. Happy birthday to you. Tyson, I don't know what you're doing here, but I appreciate you. I don't know if you're having a beer. I don't know if you're having a joint, whatever it is. Salute. Have a good time. I'm doing a completely sober January. That's what I'm on right now. No drinks, no other stuff. One, because I got to be ready to drive with to the hospital at any point, and I want to do a little cleanse. So it's a clean January for me, but I'm looking forward to February already. Yeah, Chris, trade Sauce for a second round pick. Latham is rated as a very good tackle. Yeah, we'll see. Troll comment. Yeah. We could tell. I know when certain people are trolling. I know Chris isn't. Chris is in here enough. I know he's not that stupid. Yeah, he's not that stupid. Don't fall for that, anybody. Okay. You think we can get Joe Alt? I don't know, Junior. Let me watch. If I watch him, I'm like, dude, this guy kind of sucks. Then maybe we don't even want him. But it's possible. You have. I know we're obviously hyper focused on receiver and offensive line, but are there good DNs? Are there good corners? Are there, does Bowers and then a corner and then a DN go? In those 4 or 5 picks, we really don't know what's going to happen. It's possible because, again, you're going to have 3 quarterbacks most likely, unless something changes. You're going to have Harrison. You have 5 more picks to go. Could some idiot like Fashanu more? It's Fashanu, Bowers, Neighbors, and then a DN in a corner. It's 100% possible. We have no idea. Again, at this point, 2 years ago, I think it's Sean Wade, the corner from Ohio State, was a first-round pick. He fell to the 5th round. So this Joe Alt guy we're talking, he could be. Maybe not Joe Alt, but we could be talking about Fuaga right now. Give him all his hype, and he'd be a second-round pick in 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is. Realistically, it happens all the time. So guys move so much in the next couple of months, so much. So it's very possible, very, very possible. Who wasn't there like a center who like last year who was like a lock to go in the first round and fell or whatever? Who was the other guy? It wasn't Tippmann. There was another center that people were saying was going to be a first round pick, and then he fell into the second round, like pick 55, 56, 57, whatever it was. So a lot changes, a lot. Thanks everybody. Yeah. Happy birthday to you, Tyson. The consensus seems to be Alt, Fashanu, Fuaga. I've honestly seen Latham. I've seen Latham just as much as I've seen Fuaga there. But the consensus definitely has Fashanu in the top 2. And I'm not there yet. I'm definitely not there yet. I don't think he's a slam dunk pick right now. Like you'll see streamers or whoever, Twitter. Oh, if he's there at 10, run the card up. Why? Tell me why. Because I don't see that. I don't see a run up the card player at 10. No way. I could tell you right now that I liked Wirfs better, that I liked Becton better, that I liked Wills better. Andrew Thomas, that's one of the ones I missed in recent years, even though he sucked in his first year. He got a lot better. But I would say, and again, I watched Becton 3-4 years ago. But right now, if you're and just me being completely transparent, as prospects, I liked Wirfs, Wills, and Becton better than Fuaga. And they all they went in different spots, whatever it may be. But to act like Fashanu is some fucking stud, it's just not true in my opinion. Can't get early picks. Agree. Yeah, we got to stack the roster with some. If anything, trade down, but 2 to tango. 2 to tango. Evans fits really well. Yeah, I would love Evans. The problem is, Matt, one, he's already professed like his love for Tampa and wanting to stay in Tampa, which is things can change, but he won a Super Bowl there. He's 31 years old. There's little to no state tax. I don't know if there is any state tax in Florida, and his kids are there. It's like, would you want to go to the Jets? Why? For a Super Bowl run? Like, what if he's already like, I got one. I don't need 2. It's very possible. So I think Evans is most likely just going to be back with Tampa. Marvin Guns. Why do I get the feeling that Joe Flacco will win the Super Bowl with a TD pass to Elijah Moore? Because you're a Jets fan and you're expecting the worst, which is honestly a fine thing to do. Expect the worst, hope for the best, but expecting the worst or at least softening the blow for yourself and like thinking that it's a very real possibility is I think it's a safe bet. Marvin Guns. I think you're smart for that, honestly. Okay. Let's see. Matt, the Jets give up almost 2 more yards per carry with Huff on the field for running plays. I'm not sure I completely agree, although I do a little bit not. Yeah, again, what are those runs? Because let's say that run play, and again, just giving a situation, this is not actually the case, but I like context, or I like a lot of context. What if those runs were because he's on the field on 3rd and 16 and they ran a draw for 10 yards and they did it a couple of times, so it flubbed up the numbers. Like and especially with a guy who doesn't face a lot of run plays. If they do run a lot of like a draw on 3rd and 16 and pick up 10 yards, that can completely flub up the numbers and have an actual impact on it because he's not out there for a lot of run plays. So context matters. I would have to really like look into that. Oh, releasing 30. Wow. Is he really 30 already? Okay. Still, I think a solid, a really good 2. I still think he's a really good 2. Transparency. I watched him a lot more when he was at the Falcons. I didn't watch him this year really at all with the Jaguars, so he could have fell off. Realistically, he could have, for sure. How come nobody seemed to be fine with Carter from 8 to 21 when the Titans were in playoffs and a top running game? Seemed like Salah was hoping for that version. Nobody seemed to be fine with Carter in 18-21 when the Titans were in the playoffs and a top running game. Yeah, Titans had they had a good offensive line for sure. I'm not debating that. They had Luan, they had the center we wanted even last year. They had a couple of good players. Conklin was even before that. He's been on the Browns for quite a few years now, but they've had some talent there. But opinions change when you get evidence. Now, with that all being said, could it be overblown? Realistically, it could be because Taylor Lewan seems to be a little bit of a head case. Sorry, not sorry. He does seem to be that. You have Becton, big bust, I am a left tackle, all this shit. Do I think Becton is the most mentally stable, mature person in the world? No, I don't. So could I see that 2 guys are kind of 2 crazier guys are teaming up against this guy? Yeah, but then you have like Tristan Colon like it, Adam Pankey liking it, Breece Hall laughing about it. So we've been presented evidence that we weren't presented in 18 or 21. And if you can't change your opinion based on new evidence, then and I'm not saying you, Kayuka, but if you're going to just stick steadfast to your opinion no matter what, even when new evidence presents itself, then you're kind of an idiot, right? So we weren't presented that evidence in 18 and 21. And being realistic, we didn't even know who Keith Carter was in 18 to 21. So a lot of stuff we've heard about him has been negative. This year didn't work out well. We heard that he overworks his guys and injures his guys. Okay, with new turf, new sports team, they'll be fine. Were we fine? We had a lot of injuries. So Silv Scouts always felt like Clemens plays way too high to be a solid D tackle and was very wary of the move at the start. Gets moved off the ball too much. Seems like a I wouldn't say cut. I still think he could be a depth guy, but Silv Scouts. This is something that again. It's good to have people in here a lot. I said it in the offseason. I think adding weight to him and putting him inside was a big mistake because he's not nimble enough on the inside to beat guards. You typically put like DNs in there who are more nimble, like JFM. Okay, he's a big DN, but he's nimble enough on the inside to beat guards with athleticism, where Clemens is not the athlete JFM is. He's much more boxy. So I thought, okay, listen, he's never going to be a great pass rusher, but if you could put this guy, at 275, 280 and have him be a very good, a very good run defender or even a guy who could bull rush some smaller tackles. Okay, I'm cool with that. But adding weight to him didn't do much for me because he's never going to be stronger than the guys on the inside. And adding weight to him added weight and less mobility to a frame that's not, or to a guy who's already not athletic. Again, relative, right? Because you'll have that one guy will comment, "Oh, Michael Clemens is a lot more athletic than you." Thank you, John 1 2 3 4 7 8 9. But with that being said, relative to the NFL, he's not an athletic, DN. So adding weight to him to put him at D tackle, then you better add fucking 20, 30 pounds and make him Al Woods because other than that, you're playing in a tweener middle ground that I don't think worked out. And Clemens kind of sucked this year. And in terms of Clemens, the whole like the fuck you thing to the Cleveland fans. It seemed to be more of a joke than him actually saying that. Do I think Clemens talks too much and it shows up too much for a guy who is let's be completely realistic. He's the definition of a jag, like a backup jag, just a guy. I see and hear a little bit too much for Clemens for what he is. He's very, very replaceable. Minus the fact that, again, he's going to make them scared of him or whatever. Fenton Beachum would have been better than what the Jets had. Yeah, 1,000%, Joe. And people will hate that, whatever, because, we'll remember those guys because they're not in the Jets. And anybody who's not in a Jet anymore, they suck, whatever. Fant and Beachum would have been better than Mekhi Becton, who let up, 17 sacks this year. Ridiculous amount of pre-snap penalties, ridiculous amount of sacks, ridiculous amount of pressures. Would Fant have been better? Yeah, he would have, and he was better at the Texans this year. Beachum, I don't know if he's a backup or if he actually started for the Cardinals or whatever, or wherever he is now, but apparently he was decent last year. And I can tell you that decent or even below average is a lot better than what we had at tackle. Yeah, they would have. And that's not hyperbole. That's legit. I wouldn't bet on Ridley coming to the Jets. I wouldn't bet on anybody coming to the Jets. I would take the field. There's 31 other teams. So no, I wouldn't bet. With that being said, possibility. I like drafting a left tackle because free agent offensive line is pretty meh. But what would be your plan for wide receiver B in that case? Drafting a left tackle. It's one of the receivers. It's Devontae Adams. It's Pittman. It's Higgins. It's Evans. It's all the options we've been talking about. Get one of those guys. I think it's really, and then you move into like plan Bs, but the plan A is, and you can have multiple plan As, I guess, but like the grouping of players is Higgins, Adams, Evans, Pittman. I would say. I think the next like plan B option is Ridley. I think he's the next best. And then past that, you have like the C options, the Brandon Cooks, the Curtis Samuels of the world. So in fairness, I think the poor O-line play is more on Douglas than Carter. It's on both for sure, Matt. Going into a season with Aaron Rodgers having a often injured Mekhi Becton and Dwayne Brown, who is old as shit and who didn't really play a lot last year or had injuries last year, is that a good plan? No. Then their plan was pass again. That was the failed plan in 2022. So what they did was hope that Max Mitchell developed a third or fourth round guy, whatever he was, and then they threw Carter Warren at the situation, who is a injured raw guy from Pitt. That was their answer in a Super Bowl year. A fourth round tackle. Stupid. It's stupid. Realistically, it's just an idiotic move. There's no way around it. And it's not it's not hyped since 2020 because we all said it. There's 82 of us, or including me, I guess 80 or 83 of us in here. At least 70 of us were saying it. This isn't enough a tackle. Holy shit, it didn't work out. Hindsight's 2020, Joe Douglas. No, we fucking saw it. We all saw it. Support the channel. I'm with you. I am with you, Harlan. I have been stuck at 8,970 about that subscribers for, dude, it has to be a month. It has to be. So everyone's like pushing past 10K. I'm fucking sweating to get over 9 right now. So I would love to get over at least 9. Really. Slow-mo, it's great to see so many head coach candidates that we do it. Slow-mo. It's so funny that in a year we don't need a head coach. We kind of want to fire the head coach. We're kind of stuck because of Rodgers, Pete Carroll, and obviously Belichick wouldn't happen. You have Carroll, you have Vrabel, you have some, Ben Johnson might get a few interviews. There's some guys out there, horrible, like people who we legitimately want. We're not going to go. We're not going to get anybody. Something fuck up's going to happen next year. Everybody's going to get fired, and it's going to be like some positional coach. I don't know. Sorry for the dinging. I don't know how to. Can I mute that? I can. That's what I can do. Boom, we're good. Snooper, the spammer. Cool. There's some beef. There shouldn't be some beef. Lakin is a Connor McGovern of tackles. If you told me right now, again, and this is in a vacuum with no other information, contract nothing, Connor McGovern or Lakin Tomlinson at guard next year, give me Connor McGovern. Seriously, Lakin's a fucking joke, dude. Every time they win, he go gets donuts and shit. Like, nobody likes you, Lakin Tomlinson. All the Jets want is an average O-line. Yeah. RB2 has too short of arms to reach and play tackle. I think he gets around his arm length well, but I don't think he's I don't think he's not that good. He's a solid tackle, average maybe solid at best, but he's legitimately a Pro Bowl, all pro level guard. He could be. I don't think he is yet. So I would put ABT left guard, Tibman at right guard, and have McGovern at center. That's a solid interior line. Yeah, I think that's okay. The thing about it is McGovern was out for a lot of the year, right? But at what point did he get injured, and what was his injury? I don't think that would be terrible, beloved piece. With that being said, do I want to do more in a year that we're legitimately trying to get a deep playoff run? Yes. I think, especially considering that McGovern came for $1.2 million this year, didn't really play a lot, got injured. Do I think you can get him for $1 million and a half again? Yeah. And then you add another piece to that, add a Zeitler or, whoever's going to be out there in free agency. I think that's not the worst case scenario, but I also don't think it's the best case scenario. I think that's kind of like, I'd rather shoot for the stars and get a little bit more. Kev Chada, what up? I always miss your starts. I'm sorry. You can always go back and watch them. You can always go back and watch the beginning. I know you if you want to chat and stuff, though. I apologize, Kev. Fridays, 5 o'clock, maybe. I might do 6 though now, just because Tony made a good point about the people getting off from work in the West Coast and stuff like that. So, yeah, Dom C. Is it? I'll watch. I like Dom. I'm gonna watch for myself though. I don't trust. And it's nothing against Dom. I don't trust anybody. I don't care if it's Dom. I don't care if it's Brett Coleman. I don't care who it is. I want to watch for myself because there's plenty of people who I think are really smart, and I completely disagree with them. So it's nothing against Dom, but I'm not gonna see Dom out there and put an opinion out there and then just kind of reiterate what he says because I could completely disagree with him. So I don't know. Okay. And what is it based on? Is he doing film reviews? Is he watching the All-22? What is it exactly? I don't know. I know Dom has been in here a lot, and I've seen him around on Twitter. I know he's like with Green Bean and all that stuff, but why? So re-sign McGovern for $2 million or less to put Tippmann at guard with ABT, Fuaga, and a Trent Brown type. I could see that. Yeah, I could see that being the answer. I would like to add another interior player in that instance, but you're telling me McGovern next year, $2 million. Sign me up right now. Tippmann guard, ABT guard, cool. Can you add another mid-tier type of center to maybe like battle it out or be a really good depth piece in the inside there? So that's almost the finished product, but I would want to add just another guy there. But I could see Trent Brown, again, not necessarily a slam dunk player or anything like that. There's not a slam dunk player in free agency. There's no tackle that I'm like, oh my God, I'm salivating over this guy. It's Trent Brown. It's Tyron Smith. It's Jonah Williams. There's not a ton of options out there. Trent Brown, Owenu might be the best options. So Fuaga's a good player. If you have doubts, watch the videotape. I plan on that, Harlan. I think you know that. Let's see. When's the early? I suck with contract type stuff, Nick. But when can we sign Chuck Clark? Him and Adams is looking good. Not to mention Ashton coming along crazy because I thought he was asked. Yeah, no, he okay. I got sidetracked and read another message. I love Chuck Clark. I really, really, really like him. I did a film review out there. So if we do re-sign him, I obviously don't have to do a film review. Just go back and watch the other one. I think he's a really good box guy. I think he's really good in terms of also being like a dime linebacker, nickel linebacker type of deal. Him and Adams as your safeties. It's not necessarily something to write home about, but I think it could be solid enough. Then you add Ashton Davis in there, who obviously has played much better this year, and he was a guy who was rolled out of Cal. So now the fact that he's progressed is obviously great. Would I want to add another guy to that? Yeah, of course. Do I think that's enough? Could be. Would I want to add some random I don't know if he's even still good anymore, but he was with the Niners for a couple of years, like Jaquiski Tart, a guy you can get for like $2-3 million, add him to that group. So you're not just giving the job to Clark. You're not just giving the third spot to Ashton Davis. Yeah. But I think adding, re-signing Clark for $4 or $5 million, a year, whatever it's going to be. And then adding, again, just throwing out a name out there who I don't know if he's good anymore. So don't kill me if he's not good anymore. But in prior years, Jaquiski Tart. Okay. That's Connor. He's 13-year-old Joe. Connor, who I don't even know. I've went through so many chats. I kind of forget sometimes. I like Fuaga, but I like Zach Wilson in drafts. So what the fuck do I know? Yeah, it's and I don't think you're wrong for liking Zach Wilson. A lot of people. I think hindsight's 2020 with this one. It was most GMs in the NFL said if the second pick in that draft or the second quarterback in that draft was Zach Wilson. There was not a lot of guys who Fields more. Even Fields now, it's a question if they're going to draft Caleb Williams over him. So. Which we'll see. I don't know if that thing was. I don't think it was true today. I think it was some bullshit account I saw on Twitter that said if Fields or Caleb Williams wants confirmation that the Bears are going to trade that first overall pick. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. There's a lot of comments in the chat. Why pick on the guy who's spamming for his own stream? He's a little kid, Connor. Oh, he's 13 years old. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry if he's 13 years old, but it's not necessarily the best thing to go to another stream. Like, hey, I'm live at the same time. Go to my stream. It's not the most respectful thing. If he's 13, I get it, but you gotta learn that type of stuff. There you go, Dom C. Hold on. I just logged in and heard my name. You talking shit about me, Joe? Little just kidding, man. I look forward to the show every week. No, Dom, and I think you and you've. I don't know how long you've been watching, but you've been chatting the last couple of weeks. I just said, in terms of review, is it all 22? One, I haven't watched the all 22, so I don't necessarily know like how you break down film. But with that being said, even if you're elite, again, like I said, Coleman's a really good film guy, but there's some stuff I can disagree with Coleman on. So somebody was mentioning in the chat, like, oh, just watch Dom C or listen to Dom C about Fuaga. I'm like, okay, that's great. And I respect Dom's opinion. With that being said, I'm not going to just say, oh, Dom likes him, I'm going to regurgitate what he says. I now love Fuaga as well. You know that. If you watch the show, you know that I feel like that. So it's nothing personal against you. It's nothing against Brett Coleman. It's nothing against anybody. But I am not just going to say, oh, I like this guy because this other guy likes him. I have to watch him. But I appreciate the super chat, Dom, and I know you know that was no disrespect. I'm not meaning disrespect to anybody. I got to watch for myself. Again, Fashanu is a guy who I heard, or at least who people have been telling me, oh, he's a lock, run up the card at 10. I don't feel that way at all. I don't. I watched 10 games on him. I have my list of strengths and weaknesses. I'll do my reviews. I don't think he's a slam dunk prospect at 10. I don't. There's a very real possibility if Fuaga and Latham are good players, I could easily have them over Fashanu. And this isn't saying that they are going to be, but watching it him being the first guy that I have watched, would I sign the dotted line for Fashanu right now, knowing nothing else? No, I wouldn't. Because I don't think he's a slam dunk prospect. Like I said, I liked Wirfs better than him. I liked Wills better than him. I probably even like Becton better than him. He has a lot of work to do in the run game, and his pass pro, he needs work as well. There's some things that I saw, or just specifically with how he punches and how he hops as he comes into contact. He can get bull rushed in the NFL a lot. And then with that being said, there was less dominant reps that I wanted to see. Rutgers, he played some small school teams and he didn't dominate as much as I wanted to see him dominate. So I have legitimate questions about Fashanu. So the only thing I've been hearing the entire offseason is, or at least the last couple of weeks, Fashanu. I watched him like, no, not for me. So I'll never just take somebody's opinion and make it my own. So that's what I was talking about, Dom, to give you a full breakdown. But I appreciate you being here. I appreciate the super chat and making a joke about it. Dom can, I like that Dom's a little bit lighthearted. So I appreciate that. Which if you do have a breakdown on Fuaga, I'll check it out. I'll watch it, but I got to watch myself for sure. You can't add 3-4 new linemen and expect chemistry. I'd rather have 3 or 4 new guys than just shit guys who have chemistry. Laken Tomlinson maybe has chemistry with Becton. They were pretty balls, so yeah, you prefer chemistry, but I prefer better players with no chemistry than shitty players with chemistry. So. Sorry guys, I didn't realize he just read. Yeah, no, I read him in order. I'm solo, so I kind of just go through the chat and talk to you guys. Again, maybe I'll have a co-host or whatever, but I kind of just enjoyed talking to you guys, and I don't know. Like Kyle, I knew Kyle for so long; it was just very natural. Maybe I'll urge Kyle to come back, and I'll somehow figure out how to get him back. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough. But what's up, Sneakers to Boots? Great points, Kev Chodek, especially the latter. Not sure what that meant, but yes, good points. You should know Blewett always starts like a half an hour behind. I am literally a half an hour behind the chat right now. So yes, I'm just trying to not offend anybody and get all the chats in. The draft should be solely offensive picks, but the staff will draft one. You're talking about defense? If you're talking about drafting guys on defense, like which guys would I draft? I think defensive tackle. Nobody wants to hear that, but the Jets don't have like a meaty guy in there. So if there's a guy in the 3rd or 4th round who can kind of replace what Al Woods does or did, I think that's a possibility. I also think that you can look at some other depth spots. There's plenty of depth spots you can look at. Linebacker. You have Sherwood, but who's behind Sherwood? Do we love Surratt? I don't know if we love Surratt. Do we love who else is back there? Zaire Barnes. I think it's Zaire Barnes, right? Not Zari. Zaire Barnes. So probably not linebacker, realistically. I would say if I had to draft 2 guys on defense, it's a D tackle and it's a safety. And then you let that safety compete with Trey Dean. You let that safety compete with Whiskey Tart, whoever it may be. Our organization and aptitude has seeped into the statistics. Yeah, Sneakers and Boots, you weren't here earlier, but the fact that they can't do like 2 + 2 = 4, 4 + 4 = 8, and they're a multi-million, if not like billion-dollar organization, whatever however money they're worth, it's embarrassing, dude. Like our stats guy got it wrong. How? What else was he doing? Oh, 6-yard run. Holy shit. 986 plus 6 is 992. And then, oh my God, he got another 2 yards, 994. We got it. Like, how do you fuck that up? What else are you doing? Brutal. That is brutal, dude. Brutal. Daniel Murphy, what's up? What's your progress on prospect breakdown? Anything you willing to spill so far? So, I would go back to about, I don't know, like an hour and 20 minutes ago. Daniel Murphy, I got quite a bit into Fashanu. And that's the only guy I've watched like so far in depth. I watched 10 games or whatever I did of him. I would say he's not a slam dunk prospect at 10. I'm not buying that shit at all. I hear it a lot, but I'm not buying it. Past that, I will have all 22 of, I believe, or I hope, Fuaga, Bowers, Odunze, Latham on Monday, and I plan to watch like 3 games of those guys each, and then have a good opinion of them each like next stream, and I'll go back and watch the other 7-8 games of them. But I'm having a lot coming. But Fashanu is what I've talked about so far quite a bit, so I don't want to do it again. Yes, John Michael Schmitz, thank you, Kayuka and Blewett Peace. So. We all know who those big wigs are who think follow. Yeah, it's they're definitely people, 200,000 followers who could say that, hey, this guy is great, and that's literally based on absolutely nothing but a scouting report from some random guy on CBS. I don't know. What away game are you eyeing up? Got to meet up. Actually, let me see the away games for the Jets this year, because I know they're. Let's see, Jets. Games 2024 or opponents, right? I saw that came out, but they're playing the Jags and the Vikings both away, right? And they're playing in London. If they're playing in London, I think I'm going to try to go out to there. I don't want to go to all the stadiums in, Germany, London, and all that stuff. Like, it would be great. I obviously have the goal. I've talked about it before on the stream. I do want to go to every single stadium in the NFL. I'm about a third of the way through. So let's see. They're playing Bills. No. Dolphins. No. Pats. No, I won't. Jaguars, Titans. I went to Titans already. Arizona. I went to Arizona already. I do not want to go to San Fran when the Niners are good, because 1, if you get your ass kicked there, it's not fun, and 2, that's a pretty aggressive stadium. So you don't want to go there, good team versus good team, and get stabbed or some shit like that. I'd rather go when both teams suck. Just realistically, AFC North, NFC North. So I don't know what away games there are. So I would say right now, I would probably say Jacksonville or Dolphins, maybe. Probably Florida. Unless they go to London. If they go to London, I'm probably going to go. If my buddies can pull it off. I don't want to put them out financially. So, was Tippmann the best center in the 2023 draft? Statistically, yes. Could I say that without watching JMS? No. Did I hear that JMS struggled more so than people thought he would? Yeah. So, yeah, I would say so far. Smith was the second. Yeah, that's a good one. Super fan. That's a good guy to bring up, because I heard a lot about Jarrett Patterson too. For like a couple of years before he came out, he was supposed to be a stud center, and then he fell to the 5th. Again, Sean Wade a couple of years ago, corner from Ohio State, first round, top 10, top 15 lock, fell to the 5th or 6th round. So a lot can change in 4 months, 3 months, whatever it is. A lot. Joe, any chance Seattle goes full rebuild and we can trade DK Metcalf as a number 2? What's his contract? Anything is possible, right? Like that one offseason, remember we thought like DK would be traded, Debo would be traded, AJ Brown would be traded, and obviously only AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill changed teams, but it's a very real possibility. Also, if you listen to some other podcasts or you see some stuff on Twitter, the Chargers are apparently in some pretty bad cap hell right now, and people think that there's a world where they get rid of one of Mike Williams or Keenan Allen. So could you add Mike Williams a year or two, depending on how you feel about his injuries and stuff, and I have to look more into it, or Keenan Allen, who's, I don't know, 31 years old, 30 years old, whatever he is. Keenan Allen as a 2 with Garrett Wilson. Okay. Sign me up, so there's plenty of options right now who we think are going to be available, who are not going to be available. And there's plenty of options who we don't think are going to be available, who are going to be available. So, DK Metcalf contract. Let's see. I think it's possible. Do I think that DK is kind of a little bit of a diva? Do I necessarily want to add what he is to the team? No, but yeah, he just got an extension this year, right? Didn't he? Oh, okay. So that was 2 years ago. So he is owed his cap number. Okay, so dead. The only thing is when you trade that guy. So his says, I suck with cap. I really do. So 2024, his base salary is 13 million, and his 2025 is 18. But then it's 23 dead. So do they take that on? 23 dead in 2024? I don't know. Do I think it's the cap number right here says 24 million in 2024 and 29 million in 2025. That's a lot. Now, how much do the Jets take of that, or how much did the Seahawks eat of that? Again, I suck with the cap, so I don't know exactly. Do I think it has a possibility? Yeah, sure. Why not? The Seahawks are changing, coaches. Could that coach come in there and say, hey, I think, we're kind of a middling team. Let me blow this shit up and get rid of, well, do you want to get rid of a guy who's 26 years old, 27 years old? Probably not. Is it possible? Yeah. I think in terms of guys who people are maybe overlooking right now, I think a Keenan Allen or Mike Williams is probably more possible for those guys, for those types, for like the, in the unknown type of world. Hopefully you guys can hear that. If not, I appreciate your sneakers and boots. The staff talks about looking inward when they walk around. Their shit don't stink. Pay Huff and keep Ashton Davis. He's got a knack for the ball. I don't know if you were here before Sneakers to Boots, but there's kind of like a 20-minute, maybe 10-minute segment where I kind of just went over all the dumb shit that they said in the media this last week or two. The fact that just and really the crux of it and the main point I made was the fact that you have Garrett Wilson coming out there and taking accountability and saying, this year sucked. It was the worst year of my life. We can't do the same thing. We have to get better. And then you have Saleh and Joe Douglas saying, we wanted Zach had a redshirt year. Okay, then sign a guy. The injuries. This injury. Rodgers got injured. They do a lot of fucking excuse making when realistically they should come out regardless of the excuses, because Cleveland, as everybody has referenced, Cleveland has plenty of the excuses. They're in the playoffs. They don't tuck their tail between their legs and fucking and cower the rest of the season and get blown out and lose, blown out versus the Bills, blown out versus the Chargers, blown out, beat versus the freaking Raiders, blown out versus they got blown out versus a couple of teams, but nonetheless, they looked pretty fucking bad at times, and there were some times it didn't look like they wanted to play. That Browns game didn't look like they even wanted to be there. Now, admittedly, I had quite a few that day, but drunk me thought that they did not want to be there. So they had a lot of problems, and their excuse was injuries, when realistically they should say, hey, Jets fans, we apologize. We fucking sucked in 2023. We'll be better. We will look inwards. We will change what we need to do, fire who we need to fire. They didn't do shit. They didn't even say that they did shit. They just their excuses. So it's discouraging that I don't think they truly can self-reflect and realize it went wrong. They just blame, okay, Rodgers went down. It is what it is. The Browns are on their fourth quarterback, fourth. They're in the playoffs right now. So yeah, when your 22-year-old, 23-year-old receiver has more accountability than your 45-year-old head coach, a full-grown man with fucking 12 kids, it's embarrassing. It is. So yeah, they really pissed me off in the media. Now, in terms of Huff, what's the price for Huff? It's going to be interesting. I think it's actually going to be a case where it's Huff or JFM. I don't think you can have a first-round pick in McDonald, a first-round pick. And like I said, with JJ, I don't think you can have JFM. I don't think you can have Q making $24 million a year and then Huff $20 million a year to play 50% of the snaps. It's just way too many resources into that position. So I think it's going to be a situation where it's Huff or JFM. And to me, pass rush is king. So I know as of right now, I would get rid of JFM and keep Huff if that was the decision. If they can find a way to make both of them work, great. But I think you might be living in la la land there. In terms, I'm not saying you, but people who think we can just keep Huff and get a receiver and get a guard. I don't know how they do that necessarily, and get a backup quarterback and get another D tackle that you need and get another safety to start, because you don't have Whitehead, under contract, and he shouldn't be under contract next year. So it's, yeah, but I'm paying Huff as well. But how much? Are you tagging him for $22 million? Because that's a lot of money for a guy who's going to play, pay 50 or play 50% of the reps. Because then he's making 20, or let's just say 22. JFM is making 15. Q is making 24. JJ's making whatever he's making on a first round contract. Will McDonald's making, whatever he's making on a first round contract. And we're going to have some fucking random scrub for $4 million like guard when you're paying a guy millions of dollars to sit on the bench for half the reps. So it might be a choice. We have to get rid of a guy you like, and it might be JFM. If you're keeping Huff, if you are keeping him. Let's see. Okay. Trying to catch up in the chat. I'm still half an hour behind. It doesn't matter. I always am, but I'm going to try to run through them all. Demote Hackett to Rodgers Waterboy and replace the offensive coach. It's pretty much what's going to happen, and you had Garrett Wilson who kind of alluded to it, saying that like it's going to be Rodgers' offense. And it is. Hackett it holds water for Rodgers. And at this point, I get the Hackett thing. I'm not going to say, change offensive coordinators, because having Rodgers learn a new offense at the age of 40 doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think Hackett's probably, I would like him in some like advisory role and bring a guy who can maybe bring fresh ideas to Rodgers. Sure. But realistically, I think it's going to be just as good or bad with or without, or it's going to be just as, Hackett's not going to change a lot of the formula. That's what I'm trying to say. And just me being stupid and talking for 2 hours, I'm going to trip up my words, but it's not going to change. It's Rodgers is going to be the offense. Quinnen was snubbed of all pro, at least second team sacks on everything. Yeah. And he got 2 sacks that last game. I know, congratulations, obviously, to Quincy. Congrats to Sauce. I think Sauce is, and I could be wrong in the stat, but I think he's the first corner to ever do that. Back-to-back all pros in your first 2 years. He's a fucking stud, man. Don't rub it in. Clemens, better athlete than your average Joe. Yes. But considering that he's in the NFL, I compare him to his peers, and he's not a good athlete at the NFL level. So I bet my joke with Calvin Ridley went over Blewett's head. Okay, it did. So the problem is, Kayuka, it's hard. One, texts are hard to read, but you said Calvin Ridley. They won't. I don't know what you said, but you said that they won't want him, or I forget. Yeah, I'm sorry, Kayuka. But yeah, that happens quite a bit. A decent O-line and Rodgers Jets should be okay. That's all they need the offense to be, Randilla. If you have an elite defense and an okay offense, you're talking about a Super Bowl team. So yeah, let's just get to average. Let's shoot for the stars, but average is okay. I'll take that. Oh, beloved peace knuckles wall. Okay. Yeah. Todd Monken, I'm cool with that too. I like a lot of, and I watched Todd Monken's offense in what year was that? 2019. And I think it was 2019, or maybe it was a new coaching cycle. Maybe it was like 2021. I really, really liked what I saw from Monken and his creativity. If you look into his history, I know Scott from Play Like a Jet did a podcast like breaking him down. But if you look at his track record of success wherever he goes, look what the Ravens are doing right now with Monken. So yeah, Monken, Ben Johnson. Obviously, if they were to get rid of their coaches this year, Harbaugh or Vrabel or whoever it might have been. But let's hope for the best, and hopefully they don't have to hire a new coach. Monken is now interviewing for jobs. Is he? He's in the playoffs though. I guess you can you interview? I don't know. Joe, how much did I miss? An hour and 22 minutes. I appreciate you happy thinking, but yeah, you missed an hour and 22 minutes. So I said quite a few things. Would it be possible to get compensation from Huff and then draft the left guard? You can get compensation from Huff, obviously, and then draft the left guard. Yeah, you could draft the left guard, but I'm assuming it's not going to be in the first round, obviously, unless I watch Fuaga. I'm like, dude, this guy's a mauler. I think people put a little bit too much into positional value. If Fuaga, let's say Fuaga was a stud, like no doubt about it, guard, and you can figure out tackle. Okay, I think again, I'm really reaching here. I think people definitely care about positional value too much. Like if AVT was healthy this entire time, would he be worth it at? Did he get picked 12 or whatever it was? I could see it, but I don't know. I'm kind of being an idiot here. I'm kind of reaching for stuff, but I don't think they're drafting a guard in the first round. I think it would probably be, third round, fourth round. That's possible. Do I think that should be your primary plan at left guard? If it's a third round, fourth round guard, I think Joe Douglas again made a mistake, but we could have kept re-signing Morgan Moses 2 years ago. Yeah. And Morgan Moses has done fine with the Ravens. You let him go, he does well. You let George Fant go, he does well. Kelvin Beachum, we let him go. And again, he wasn't even good, but he's better than what we've had. So we've let some tackles go and we can't find the right answer. We just can't. Okay, let's see. I'm at 6:24 in the chat. So I'm almost 20 minutes behind. So Kayuka, you're almost right because now I'm 20 minutes. You think Becton is gone? I do. I could see it where he wants to play with Rodgers for a year, maybe have an approved deal, and maybe his relationship brings him back. But I said that before he openly criticized Keith Carter. So do I think that they'll bring him back? Probably not. Is it possible? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Machias Cheeks needs to go. Big bust. Yeah, listen, and like at the beginning of the year, he wasn't as bad at the end of the year, but even the beginning of the year, he was being maybe a little bit overhyped by people. But at the end of the year, you're talking about like number 1 or 2 or 3 in sacks allowed and pressures and pre-snap penalties. He was really, really bad. Jay says, Joe, what do you think our playoff Super Bowl window actually is? Yeah. I think it's 2 years. I think our playoff Super Bowl window is 2 years. I think Rodgers said he wants to play multiple years. Now, if he plays next year and they suck and he gets injured, then it might be done. But you're looking at you're gonna have to eat or you're gonna have to cut some guys this year who you don't necessarily want to cut or flub up the roster a little bit. But I think it's 2 years because you have Sauce Sauce gonna want a contract after next year probably. Same thing for Garrett Wilson, but you can push money down the road with those guys. You're gonna have enough flexibility in 2025 to just move it down the road a little bit. So I think it's realistically as long as you want it to be, and not as long as you want it to be, because Rodgers can't stay here forever, but they can make it work for 2 years. They can make it work. Yeah, because you have Michael Carter. You have Michael Carter next year. After this year, you have Michael Carter. You have DJ Reed. You have Conklin. But those are the only 3 like big contracts I can think about who are going to be up, right? And then you extend a 5th-year option for Sauce and stuff. And then maybe after year 4 he signs. It's 2 years. They should get Fant again. I'm okay with Fant as a swing for sure. Fuaga's a good player, decent hands and feet, good power in the run game, needs to anchor in the pass game at pro level to reach his potential. I really like him at 10. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to watch him. I plan on doing Bowers and then Fuaga. So I have Fashanu done. It's going to be Bowers, Fuaga for sure. And then I'll probably watch Latham and then Odunze after that. So everyone is a draft expert with highlight tapes. A lot goes into a successful scout. Yeah, like watching the All-22, which most people don't have. So I don't, highlight tapes are great, but, I don't know. Fucking Stephen Hill had a highlight tape. Darius Stewart. You ever go back and watch his highlight tape? I did it. I heard his name a couple of days ago, or maybe it was a couple of weeks ago or months ago at this point. I went back and watched Darius Stewart Alabama highlights. The highlights were awful. Awful. It was all wide open catches and running in for wide open touchdowns. And we thought he was going to be a stud. What the fuck is wrong with us? Now it's a parody account. No. I don't know who you're talking about. Again, that's the negative is that the positive is I try to answer everybody's shit, but not shit, but questions or whatever, comments. But the negative is I'm never with you guys. Connor Long from Lana. What Jets player impressed you the most this year? Would you say Quincy and JJ? Yeah, dude. Quincy took a leap from like an average linebacker to an all-pro, literally. There were some plays where he got bailed out by a really good pass rush and stuff, but overall, I think he's a top 10 linebacker at this point, which is crazy coming from what he was. You're talking about a guy who was, picked up off of waivers, who was cut from Jacksonville, wild. And then JJ took the next leap. Still a really good run defender. I would say a solid pass rusher at this point, 7.5 sacks. But the one thing he added to his game this year is getting his hands up. It was fucking ridiculous how many pass deflections that guy had. And then obviously the pass deflection for a touchdown. Like he was a stud this year. Like he was legitimately just a solid defensive end. And I think he has a potential to be a very good one. Again, I don't know if his athleticism is ever, I don't know if he's ever going to be a guy who's going to get, 16, 17, 18 sacks. I think he might be a guy who's going to float around 8, 9, 10, maybe 11, 12 sacks a year, which if you have a guy who's getting 10, 11 sacks a year and a really good run defender or even an elite run defender, you're talking about a top-notch edge rusher or top-notch player right there. And that's what he's developing into that. First year was flashes. This year, very solid player. I think next year he's going to be a stud. He's going to be a stud, which is great. That's great. But yeah, Quincy, JJ, Ashton Davis, I would say is another guy who impressed me. I would say Tippmann, just considering that he's a rookie. I thought he played pretty well. So he was a guy who was impressive. Tony Adams, say what you want. I maybe have wanted a little bit more from him, but talking about a guy who's a UDFA in his first first year starting, he had some moments that were bad, but considering expectations, I thought he was a little bit impressive, if not like kind of just like average, which again is fine considering where they got him. So great there. I'm trying to think of anybody else who can truly impress me. I think Conklin proved to maybe not me, but to some doubters of him why I liked him as much as I did. Again, considering he played with Simeon, Zach Wilson, all those guys. I think he could be really good with Rodgers. So yeah, there's a few guys. Breece Hall at the end of the year was a fucking stud. That Pats game was ridiculous. He was amazing. Again, do I think it's smart to run a guy 37 times in a game that doesn't mean anything for 1,000 yards? I think it's pretty stupid nonetheless. So I watch a ton of tape and all 22. Not sure if you're referring to me, Joe, but I am legit. Yeah. Again, I don't, I gotta watch for myself. I don't care who it is, Harlan. There's people I respect their opinions. Like I respect you. I definitely respect Dom, but I can also completely disagree at the same time. So I don't know. Yeah, Joe all to 10. Yeah, please. I'll take that. McGovern played god awful this year. He just can't start. To be transparent, I don't really remember much. How many games did McGovern play this year? Connor McGovern, to me in general, at least the past couple of years, not necessarily saying this year, I think he's got a bad rap from Jets fans in general. People want, I don't know if they just remember Mangold and I think that everybody's supposed to be that, but he was always okay to slightly below average for the Jets, which is better than what we've had in the past couple of years. But I don't know about god awful. 2020, 2021, 2022, he's not god awful. He was slightly below average to average. So what games did he play? Okay, so he played weeks 1 through 8, or sorry, really 1 through 6, and then week 8 against the Giants, he got injured 18 snaps into the game. Or at least into, the offensive snaps of the game. So I have to go back and watch and see if he's like actually awful. But right now, dotted line, McGovern, for your starting center next year, I'm not signing that dotted line. Would I like McGovern to be a backup guy for $1.5 million who has center guard flexibility as well as Schweitzer? Yeah, I would take McGovern and Schweitzer as your backup center guard duo. I would take that for sure. I'm not signing up for it. Him as a starter, no way. Olo's extremely raw. You wouldn't reap the benefits a few years from now. Oh, okay. 100%. Everyone should watch and form. Yeah, exactly, Dom. Exactly. It is what it is. And especially guys really watch. I'm not just be like, oh yeah, Dom likes him. Harold likes him. I now like him. I'll just say that, hey, I know some guys who I respect who like him. With that being said, I could hate him because there was people who I respected who liked Evan Neal and Treylon Burks, and I could not disagree more. I hated both of those players. So it depends. 6'8", 322. Tyler Guyton. I've heard his name a little bit. Tight end from Georgia. I think it's a real possibility. I kind of talked about him a lot already. If the Jets truly did look into Michael Mayer last year, why are they not looking to a better prospect down one tight end than they had last year? You had Uzama and Conklin and Ruckert, and they still apparently looked into Mayer. I'm assuming the Jets are going to get rid of Uzama's whatever it is, $6, $7, $8 million they can get rid of or clear with him. So you get rid of a guy. Can you add a better tight end prospect than last year? I think it's a very real possibility, especially considering if they don't like these guys. Let's say Fuaga is a guard. They don't want Fuaga. Let's say that maybe maybe Alton Fashanu are gone. Do you just have to reach for a tackle, or do you take the best player? Because again, it's not like he's a weapon, right? Like that's what he is. You don't have to play as much 11 personnel. You could play 12. If you have Bowers and Ruckert and Conklin, you're going to play a shit ton of 12. Let's be a ground and pound team who can also rip you up the seam, because Conklin sure could do it this year with a few of those catches. A really good short route runner, intermediate route runner, in my opinion. And then Bowers is an all-around guy. So let's dominate him in 12 personnel. I'm cool with that. I'm okay with that. I think people think a little bit too much in terms of 11 personnel. Okay, well, who are your other two receivers? You don't need two other receivers necessarily. Now, we would like that, but if you draft Bowers, you need a receiver too, but you don't necessarily need 3 or 4. Even though 11 personnel will still be run most of the time, but you get what I'm saying. You could push more heavy into the 12 personnel stuff if you draft Bowers. I think it's possible. I do. Kyle ain't coming back until we start winning a games in a convincing manner. Maybe, yeah. I think the Jets broke Kyle. I do. So if they add Devontae, if they start really like impressing him in the offseason, he might be back. If they win 3 out of the first 4 games this year, he's back. He'll be back. I think. Maybe. I don't know. Art, what's up, Art? Nice to meet you 2 years ago. I agree. I think Guyton will rise during the process. People will rise, people will fall. We know that, Harold. It's going to be crazy, the amount of rising and falling in. Jared Patterson, good pull by NY Jets superfan, I believe the whole name is. He was a guy who was supposed to be a stud, a first-round guy, a second-round guy. He went 5th round, like he said, something like that. So I'm an Apple store. Lots of people can't catch reading all of the thread. Apple Store, getting a new phone? You can get a phone from, I guess you can get a phone from the Apple Store, right? iPhone, yeah. Maybe the world needs Joe B and Hawk show. You be the X&O guy, and I'll bring the hot takes. I don't think that would work well, Hawk. It just we'd argue. I don't know. Maybe. Hey, try it. We'll try it out. Me and Hawk, new show. Looking at mock drafts is fun, but people shouldn't put too much stock into them. Tankathon mock has Alt falling as a 10 last week. He was in the top 5. And it's January, Art. Like the amount that's going to change from now until April is going to be wild. And then even in April, how wrong are the mock drafts? Like very, very wrong. So they're wildly inaccurate right now. Wildly glitchy. Yeah, I don't know why. I got to figure that out. Chris, I'm sorry. I know it keeps glitching and like cutting out, but new camera, maybe it's the computer. The computer might not be, it might not be able to handle all this shit. So, okay. Better question. Could DK behave better under an arguably bigger magnifying glass? I personally doubt it. Yeah, Dano, it's, he's not a guy I would necessarily line up to trade for because of his like diva tendencies. I'd rather just another receiver. Again, and what's the chances that a 26-year-old stud receiver is available even on a rebuilding team? He's kind of a guy who you want at least for the initial part of the rebuild. It's not like he's 29, 30 years old, so let's see. Art facts, but Buffalo may be 3-4 peating soon. I don't know what that means. JB, love Friday, Saturday, Sunday live content. Appreciate you. I will be here on Fridays for the entire seasons. That's going to be my day. Probably 6:00. Maybe I'll start doing it at 6:00 because my wife's going to be off for the next 5 months anyway. So it doesn't really matter. I can pick whenever I want. So Fridays at 6. Next Friday, 6. I'm going to keep doing it. Okay. I'm at 6:39. I'm trying to catch up. Yes, Seattle would take on that dead cap hit. How much though, Dom? Like that, all of the dead cap I talked about before, or some of it. I suck with contracts. Really, really suck with them. But Jets can't go crazy. 26, they'll have 60 mil dead cap on Rodgers if he retires. Yeah, they're gonna go all in, and it's gonna hurt them in future years. But as long as you can retain the Sauces, the Wilsons, the JJs of the world, then it'll be fine. Like you want that core to build around. The one guy I love who it's just in the world of running backs, you don't really see them last their team typically for a long time. You'll have your outliers, you'll have your Henrys, you'll have your Alvin Kamaras, whoever it may be. But they typically, it's very likely you see running backs that go elsewhere after their 4th or 5th year with the same team. Is Brees going to be here for a long time with the Jets? I don't know, but I love him. So we'll see. But he has 2 more years left. 2 more years. I can't imagine them extending him after his 3rd year. Typically, you kind of want to see those contracts out with running backs. John says this is a great interior defensive line class. A Braden Fiske, McClinley Jackson on J2 would be very justified. Byron Murphy is 2 is a dream, but unlikely to do a line. Is he Byron Murphy, the corner's brother or something? Yeah, I could see D tackle, the answer at D tackle in terms of like as a run stuffer going from Al Woods to I don't know who these guys are. Let's just say a Braden Fiske. Is that possible? I could see that being possible. I think an underrated thing on the defensive line is bringing back Quentin Jefferson and bringing back. I think Solomon Thomas is on a 1-year deal. Solomon Thomas played pretty solidly for a backup defensive lineman this year, and QJ was a stud. He was really good for us. 6 sacks and however many games he played. He definitely outperformed many people's expectations. So we need some dogs on offense to get some respect. DK's a beast. Yeah, sure. But is DK going to bitch when he only gets like 3 targets and we win a game? Like, is he going to pull Elijah Moore? I don't know. I'm not saying I right now in a vacuum, DK or no DK. Okay, give me DK, because I don't think that the answer is necessarily going to be a better than him. So if I had to sign the dotted line right now, sure. But would I prefer like Adams or Evans or Higgins or Pittman? Maybe, just because they don't necessarily carry those. They don't carry those diva tendencies. Dom, it's difficult to have a YouTube chat and plausibility. Cleveland are a better. Okay. Sure. Like, yeah, they have some better offensive linemen depth. We have Garrett Wilson. I'm taking Garrett Wilson over Amari Cooper. Nick Chubb was out. I'm taking Breece Hall or whoever they had at a running back. So are they really that much better? That much better? Maybe a little bit better. They're not that much better. Better overall team. Is it better to the point where the Jets are getting blown the fuck out, back-to-back weeks, and the Cleveland is in the playoffs? I don't think it's that drastic of a difference. You can argue, yeah, a little bit better. But the differences in seasons is I don't think it fits. I just want to throw this trade scenario out there and see your thoughts. We traded for Devontae Adams and Matt Crosby, pick swap in the first round, and Zach Wilson. No, that's Max Crosby is like one of the top 5 edge rushers in the league. You're going to have to trade like 2 or 3 first round picks just for him. That's never going to happen. Yeah, it's never going to happen. Okay, keep going down. Damn, I'm still 20 minutes behind. You guys are still killing the chat. I appreciate that. Read faster, Joe. I'm trying. I already read fast. People say I talk really quickly. Imagine if I didn't talk quickly. I know I talk like I'm on 1.5 speed or even 2. If I didn't, I wouldn't get through any of this shit. Maybe my problem is, let's get deep. Let's get a little bit deep here. If I listen to I listen to podcasts. I'm not going to say which ones, whatever. People judge people for everything these days. But I listen to certain podcasts and I listen at 1.5 speed. So maybe it's because I listen to podcasts so quickly that I then try to replicate the 1.5 speed. That could be the problem. Okay. Moving down. Fire, Sackett, Crap, Carter, Odd.
What the hell is even that?
Get Higgins. Okay. And who was playing guard? And I'm just gonna refer you to that picture. You've seen the picture of the guy throwing to wide open receiver, but he can't because his offensive line's garbage. We don't want to do that. Joe, would you give Derrick Henry the Dalvin Cook contract? Fuck yeah! Are you kidding me? Derrick Henry for $7 million? I'll do that. I'll take Derrick Henry. Now again, I can watch back this year and think he's ass, but sure, just do it so the Jets don't sign some other scrub running back. At least Derrick Henry's good. All right, and again, I could watch him and be like, oh no, we don't want to do that either. But then realistically, do we want to spend $6 million on running back when we don't have a tackle? We don't have 2 tackles. We don't have a number 2 receiver. We don't have a starting interior defensive lineman. We don't have a starting safety. Probably not the smartest thing to do. How else does it work out? There's a lot of variables with that, but I would be much more willing to give that to Derek. Like Dalvin Cook made $7 million, whatever it was in the Jets. I think that's like a top 10 running back contract. I could be wrong, maybe top 15. Let's just say top 10 for shits and giggles. A top 10 running back contract for, but Nani's a nerd, so don't listen to him. He got 214 yards for $7 million. Bravo, everybody. He's a Pro Bowl running back. Pro Bowl. That's all we heard. Pro Bowl. Wild. Absolutely wild, that contract. Damn. Another super chat from my guy, who I appreciate that he could I appreciate the way you responded to that, Tom. Having to fix the O-line. I know you watched, so I wasn't trying to hide anything. Having to fix the O-line this year is such a clusterfuck. Free agency cupboard is bare as of now. And I'm not keen on the idea of starting 2 rookie offensive tackles with a lack of draft capital. That probably won't. I think so. ABT's a guard, in my opinion. Just play him at guard. I think you have some flexibility with the fact that you can get $8 or $10 million out of cutting Laken Tomlinson. So to me, ABT at right guard, cut Tomlinson. Hopefully you replace Tomlinson with whatever guards we like. I don't know exactly who's out there right now. I'm not going to look into it because it's already past 7. But Zeitler there's other guys in the chat who I appreciated who mentioned some other guys in free agency. You add another guy to be better than Tomlinson for $8 million, which I think is very realistic because Tomlinson's booty. You could find a better guard than him for $8 million. So $8 million guard or center. Tippmann, either at guard or center, whichever one you don't get. ABT. And I think the other guy is going to be a Trent Brown and Owenu, I don't want to be a George fan. We've already done that. He's better this year, but I still don't necessarily want to do that. But hope for like an Owenu or a Trent Brown or one of these guys, and then another and then the rookie in their first round. But I don't think it's gonna be 2 starting rookie offensive tackles. That would be a mistake in my opinion as well. So I think it's gonna be 1, and then you got to cut Tomlinson and then sign a guard and tackle in free agency. And it might be a thing where you don't land Trent Brown, you don't land Onwenu because he gets re-signed or he goes elsewhere. So again, there's 31 other teams, so you don't get one of those guys. It might be a situation where we're not getting option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It might be an option where you get 6 and 7. And option 6 and 7 might be, we signed George Fant back, even though he probably wouldn't want to come here after how it went down. And then you have an offensive line coach who nobody likes, which is also a variable or another kind of key or a cog in the machine. It's like you're trying to sign all these offensive linemen and you have a bunch of offensive linemen who played for the Jets or played under Keith Carter who criticized him. So do you want to go there? That's another variable. But could the answer be, rookie left tackle, Zeitler, Tippmann, ABT, and then you sign Fant, but we don't have enough faith in Fant. So we signed Fant and Kelvin Beachum to be a backup swing tackle. Like it's not something that I want. Is it a realistic possibility where we don't get option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have to settle for 6 and 7, combine those and hope that one of them works out and elevates themselves? It's very possible. But yeah, and you're talking about here with like lack of draft capital, you're not going to add a third round rookie and then hope that he can start, right? Like that'd be a pretty terrible situation. So I think it's going to be a situation where you need to sign a capable starting tackle in free agency. So we'll see what happens. But I appreciate the super chat. I appreciate both super chats. Dom, and legitimately, if you've done like real work on I don't know if somebody said I think Fuaga before, send it to me. I'll check it out. I won't necessarily air out anything I think about it, but I would like to, but I appreciate you're saying like, hey, formulate your own opinions. That's exactly what you should say. So I appreciate that. Because a lot of people just want to be taken for, I don't know, whatever. But I appreciate you, Dom. I do. I gain respect for Dom C after this stream. What time is it now when you read this? 7:10. I'm 20 minutes behind. 19 minutes. I'm going to keep going. Okay. Jermaine Johnson gives, he's a guy you want on your team. Him, Sauces, the Garrett Wilsons of the world. Those are the guys who have the right mentality, in my opinion. Those are guys you want. Q, Quincy, Mosley. Like we have some good character guys on this team. But yeah. Joe now gets 30 seconds per on-screen comment. We're talking about each one. I would be here forever. Yeah. When you project JJ's production profile, 10, 11 sacks, great run defense. It's a good player. It's a good player. Again, I was not about him at 4. I was not about him at 10. I think he was a mid to late round prospect in terms of defensive ends. He went in the later first round. I thought he went in a perfect area, and he's turned out to be even better than I thought. But yeah, played 8. Word Hawk. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, Harold. Again, stuff gets misconstrued, but I'm running through the chat. I can't understand sarcasm sometimes, and then when you say stuff and I'm reading it 15 minutes later, I don't get exactly what you're talking about. So that's my fault. Harlan, do you have Twitter? Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure I react with or talk to some of you guys on Twitter, but I have no idea your Twitter names. I watch once they're officially Jets. Yeah, it's that's part of the problem. Or sometimes it's like, hey, I'm going to do reviews on all these guys and waste, 10, 15, 20, 10, 15 hours on a guy which is legitimate. Like I'll probably take 10, 15 hours just to watch one guy. Like, yeah, Fashanu, I probably took a good 10, 15 hours to watch him. So you watch all these guys and then you put out reviews and they're not signed and nobody wants to watch. It's like, fuck, dude. It's a lot of work for nothing. The hawk that blew it. Children's book. Hey, make the children's book. I'll read it to the Sun. The Tom McDonald of the Jets YouTube Fridays, baby. Oh my God. It's that's like the guy who made like that Snowflake song and like all that shit. I guess I appreciate that, but you can also hate Tom McDonald because you can completely disagree with his opinions. I think that's a compliment though. I'll take that. How much will it take to sign Kev Chada? That's a tough one. A kicker contract? I'm going to guess off the top of my head with absolutely no facts or anything baked into it. I'm going to say $4.5 million. $4.5 million. Kicker contracts, NFL. I don't know how much do kickers make. I think you can go and make like $6 million a year, right? Kicker active player contracts. Oh, okay. No, I was off. I was a little bit off. So Justin Tucker got 4 years, 24, so $6 million. You have Young Wei Koo who got 5 for basically 25, so 5. So okay, not 4. I'm gonna say $3.7 million, 3 years. Greg Zerline. That's gonna be his contract. $3.7 million. You can't negotiate dead money. I believe Seattle would eat the entire penalty. Okay, let me go back and see that because was it Hawk who brought that up? Contract again. So let me readjust my opinion based on new evidence, which people should do. Dead money. So they would eat $23 million in dead money. So they would pay him what? So if the cap number is $24 million, again, tell me the cap number is $24 million. His base salary is 13. They eat $23 million in 2024 and 11 in 2025. So do you take the cap number 24.5 and minus it by $23 million? So then we're paying DK Metcalf $1.5 million. And then next year you're paying him really $18 million. Is that how that works? I don't know. Again, I really, really ask with contracts. So if that's the case, you're paying him $1 million. I'll take him. Read your emails. Joe, I mentioned this on the Thursday stream. I saw that, but you didn't really ask me anything. So I saw it. I just didn't know what you were asking, or saying or doing or whatever, but I'll respond. Just, you gotta send me a follow up. You gotta send me a follow up to that one. Gonna eat dinner and we'll finish the stream later. Congrats on the newborn, Joe. Yeah, he's not here yet, but he's gonna be maximum of like 2 weeks. I got like max 2 weeks, but then I'm off of work for a month. And in that month, I get it, baby, blah, blah, blah. But babies sleep for like 12 hours a day or whatever the hell it is. I know it's like sporadic, but I have a lot of time the next month to watch film. So I'll have a lot of I'll have a lot of the top guys done. I'm not going to watch some third round guard and then him not even be on the Jets radar. I can't do that. Snow and lightning happening here an hour north of Buffalo and Niagara Falls. I went to Niagara Falls, never an hour north, but that's where I proposed to my wife, Niagara Falls, in the Canadian side. I've heard that Niagara Falls on the American side is like sketchy and kind of shitty. Sorry if you live there. I don't think John Hassel does, but that's what I've heard about it. Could be wrong again. But yeah, I've been up that way. And I went to Buffalo to see the Jets get their shit, not their shit kicked in, but that 2015 loss. I was there for that. That was not fun. Thunder snow is an experience. It sounds awesome though. We haven't had snow yet here really in Jersey. It's just been really cold rain. It's like Jersey goes from like 55 to 25 within a day and just completely destroys people. It's annoying. I'm trying to stick to Jet stuff, but I've never seen lightning while it's snowy before, and I'm older than Green Bean. It's great. I don't think I've ever seen that either. Pittman Jr. isn't leaving with Richardson coming back next year. Yeah, but with that being said, sneakers to boots, like it's more than just Richardson coming back, right? Because let's say his agent says, hey, Mike, you can get $22 million a year, and the Colts are offering 17. Would you take $5 million less to play with a quarterback? I'm not, and so there's a lot of variables. Have to make dinner. Yeah, I gotta eat some dinner. Joe, just so you're in on the joke, every offseason for a period of time, I lobby hard for DK Metcalf. I don't even necessarily think he's the best option. Okay. I think I remember that last time, but the last offseason you did that, it was like Tyreek Hill, DK, AJ Brown, Debo. So I thought it was legit. I thought it was legit. I don't know. The Jets should hire Nani to run their analytical department. Listen, at the bare minimum, I know that Nani could do addition. At the bare minimum. Talk shit about him, nerd, all this stuff, dunk on him because he's the stats guy, whatever. I know he could do addition. He could even do multiplication, which for the Jets would be that would blow their minds if he did multiplication. He's got to go in there and say 5 times 5 is 25, and they're going to fucking drop their pants for that, man. So, yeah, do it. Do it because they can't even add. He could do multiplication. I guarantee it. I've seen it. Okay. Car hopping McDonald. Okay. Size and fit. Yeah. DK's a freak for receiver. Tyreek's a freak for receiver. He's definitely a freak. It's just, do you want to add? It's a pretty volatile. Rodgers plus DK plus Garrett, who's not volatile, but he wants his targets too. It's just that's a little bit too much for me. It's kind of sketchy. JJ equal. Yeah, that's. I don't think it's a bad comparison. I think Cam Jordan is he like 280 though? And do they? I think they're more of a 3-4. I could be wrong with them, but I could see that. I don't think it's a bad comparison at all. Tucker's making 7. I think I just saw 6 for 24 or 4 for 26, whatever it is. Joe Nelson, help the stream, hit the like button. Help the stream, subscribe. The 8.97 every time I log in is driving me crazy because it's been there for at least 2 months. Like just dead set. The 8,900 people who subscribe to this are my people. Nobody else gives a fuck. But I would like to at least get to 10. Like at least just give me 10. I don't care about 20 until we're almost there. But I'm sniffing 9. I haven't been there forever. So it is what it is. All right, how are you going to prepare changing diapers? Kev, I think you know my profession. Baby shit is the least of my concerns. I've seen so much worse than baby shit. So much worse than baby shit. I could protruded dead assholes. Does that sound bad? Because I've dealt with that. Baby poop, that's nothing, bro. Niagara Falls on the U.S. side is like watching the Jets on a Sunday when you know the outcome. It's pointless. Is it really that bad? Yeah. The Canadian side, I'm going to tell a story on a different day, but that whole weekend was fucked for me, dude. Actually, I'll do it quickly. 1, paid for a room with the jacuzzi. There was pubes in the jacuzzi. I'm not going in that jacuzzi. I got refunded. Okay, great. 2, I told the people at the hotel. So long story short, I told my wife we're going for 4 days because that 4th day was really going to be the day that we came back to a surprise engagement party for her. So I told the people, I think it was 4 days, whatever it was. So I told the people, hey, I'm staying for 3 days. But I'm going to come up to the desk and I'm going to say, hey, Blewett staying for 4 days. And you're going to just say, oh, okay. Hello, Mr. Blewett. Here's your key for the room, because I was lying to my wife because she needed to think it was 4 days. I get to the counter after talking with the manager 15,000 times. She says, oh, I'm not seeing 4 days. I'm only seeing 3. Are you sure it's 4? I'm only seeing 3. I'm like, it's 4 days. Like, talk to your manager. It's 4 days. Like, what the hell is going on here? So that was fuck up 2. Fuck up 3 was, I told the people who we're doing a tour of Niagara Falls, I told them, hey, I'm going to propose on this trip. I need you to, at a certain point and I gave them a tip. I gave them like $200 for this. Legitimate. I gave them a big fucking tip for this. I told them to say, I want you to basically prop my proposal, which AKA, hey guys, this is a really nice location. Would you like me to take a picture? That's the trigger. Okay. Now you propose. We're there for like 3-4 hours, and then they walk away and they're like, hey guys, we're going to leave in a little bit. We're going to let you guys walk around for 45 minutes to an hour and see the sites by yourself. And then we're going to go to another spot. I'm like, okay, so is there another spot in Niagara Falls? Like, what the fuck's going on? So then I just panicked and gave the phone to like some random dude walking by to take a picture of it. It's like, so fuck that vacation, but nonetheless better. Yeah. But the pubes, whatever. Not ideal. Huff stays. Huff can't walk for nothing. That's a nightmare. Yeah. We thought. Yeah. I'm not gonna talk about the whole fucking. That was stupid. Did you mean? Oh yeah. Huff is going to get 18 million, more likely 20 million or more. He is gone. Hopefully we can do it. And Harold, I brought this up before too. The tag and trade thing is the tag is going to be like $22 million, right? So who is going to be willing to pay him $22 million and give up a 2nd or 3rd round pick for him? That's a lot for Bryce Huff. A lot. I think he's a great player, but with being more unproven in the run game, I think he's probably more around a $16-17 million player or so. So who's going to pay him $22 million and trade for him? So I don't know how big his market is. So let's say it is a fourth or a fifth round pick for him, because it's a lot to give up for just him, just based on the contract. So do you let him then walk and get a 2025 third round comp pick? Like it's pretty sketchy with that situation. I would like to sign him for $16-17 million. And then if you have to, you get rid of JFM. If you told me in a vacuum right now, him versus JFM, I'm taking Huff, but it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to get him back. I really do think that you can renegotiate the tag once traded. Yeah. Oh yeah. If you could do that, if it's a thing where he's going to work with you and he's going to say prior to trading, hey, I'm willing to renegotiate, lower the cap hit, whatever it may be. Yeah, I get that. We can afford 3 years, $57 million if he wants that 19-20. I don't know. 19-20 is even a lot though. I'm more like 16, 17, 18. He has to prove run defense. He has to prove that he can do it still. Why though? Why would you not pay your best pass rusher? I'm glitching out a lot right now. It's not a bad, and again, I just said I'd rather have him than JFM. If you're telling me right now, get rid of Huff, okay, well, can we get rid of JFM and then give him JFM money plus $5 million, whatever it is? Yes, I want to do that. With that being said, do I think with needing both tackles, with needing a new guard, with needing a new safety, with needing a new D tackle, with needing all of this shit, can I pour in, again, multiple first round picks, $24 million to Q, $15 million to JFM, $20 million to Bryce Huff? You're pouring a lot of assets into defensive line, and then considering that, hey, that defensive lineman who you're paying $20 million in Bryce Huff is not going to play 50% of the snaps. Your resource allocation is not good there when I can get a tackle who can play 100% of the reps for that money. You know what I'm saying? So at a certain point, you can't just pay only the defensive line. We got to do other things. So holy green cap, the Joker. Yeah, I did. And now about the jump off. They let Huff fire out offense. Yeah. What other team lets an elite edge rusher leave their team? Yeah, again, I think it might be JFM. Might have to leave. Huff didn't sniff 10 sacks on, say, Arizona. Doesn't? I don't. Yeah, does the fact that we have a bunch of other good players help him? Sure, but I can also argue the other way that if the Jets play with more leads this year, that he could have had 15, 16 sacks. Right? If we didn't get blown out versus the Bills, we didn't get blown out versus the Dolphins, we didn't get blown out versus the Chargers, and we're actually up in those games, he could have gotten another 4, 5, 6 sacks. So you can kind of play that comment both ways. I really soured on Salah this year. He really says and does some dumb stuff like that Joe Beningo stuff. Yeah, super chats, Joe. Did I miss a super chat? You're talking about JFM. You rather keep JFM over Huff? Huff versus JFM, I'm thinking Huff. Pass rush is king. It might be just that's all it is. Okay. Who was super chats? Did I miss a super chat? I didn't miss a super chat. Did I miss a super chat? Oh shit, I did, Dano. I didn't even see these. I apologize. I'm gonna do it for everyone. $2 super chat. Thank Lord AVT and JT can play 3 or 4 spots or screwed. AVT should still play guard. Next one. Appreciate it again. I urge you to watch American Flags by Tom A+. Snowflakes was bad. Okay, I guess I'll watch American Flags and try to I'll watch it. I'll literally watch it right after this, Dano. Another one, by the way, I told my wife I'm going to be up there by 7 o'clock to help make dinner or whatever. She's going to kick my ass. Dano, anyways, McGovern coming back is one less to replace. I think McGovern in a Super Bowl or bust year at this point is a good backup, not necessarily somebody you want to rely on as a starter. I would like to do something else there than McGovern. McGovern being a part of the solution, I'm okay with that, not the solution. I can't justify JFM over Huff if the choice is between the two. Okay, yeah. Again, pass rush is king, and especially in a year where you're planning to plan with more leads, you want that pass rusher to close out the Super Bowl. You look at the Von Miller, Cam Newton stuff. Obviously, there's a lot of variables and stuff, but you're taking pass rush over run stopping. And not saying JFM's a bad pass rusher. He's a good pass rusher, but Bryce Huff is an elite pass rusher. You don't let them go. So. Yes, we disagree. Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine. It's completely fine. If you like him more. Yeah. Nani did a good breakdown on all line available in free agency. Yeah, he did. Rivka, we write, I don't know, 1,000 articles a day at Jets X Factor. So I'm sure we have plenty of articles on offensive line, but that one specifically, Harold, I think it was like 3 or 4 days ago. So I appreciate you promoting the site, but yeah, go and Nani breaks down all the stats of all the guys. So go watch that. JFM can stop the run and pass rush. Huff can't do both. Huff is I think Huff could be an okay run defender. But with that being said, JFM cannot elite pass rush. Huff can elite pass rush. Elite pass rush matters. There's plenty of players who, I'm not maybe not plenty, but there are plenty of, there are plenty. There are plenty of DNs who get paid $20 million a year who are just average edge defenders, but who are elite pass rushers. You get paid to pass rush. You don't get paid to run stop. So, Dano did 3. Yeah, no, I just got it. I appreciate you guys. I got to go make some steak. I'll be back next week regardless, unless I am in the hospital with the wife. So I'll do my best. Fridays at 6 are going to be the new lockdown time for Kev Chata, so he doesn't yell at me. I appreciate you guys, and